Chapter 621, Wang Yufeng, brat, you're a reckless one if you're sticking your nose into the business of our Heian clan. Do you wish to die? One of the middle-aged man barked angrily at Jian Chen. Still smiling in disdain, Jian Chen replied, the way I see it, the ones that wish to die are you three and not me. You're going to die for that. The three men snarled with fury. Immediately, two of the three men charged with their saint weapons in order to teach this young man in front of them a rough lesson. Pointing his finger, Jian Chen allowed for two beams of sword qi to fly out towards these two men. PCHT. PCHT. The two beams of sword qi embedded itself into the male's forehead and then out of it, leaving behind a huge cavity in their heads. There hadn't even been enough time for them to scream out before they died. But because of inertia, their bodies continued forward another 5 or 6 meters before finally coming to a stop on the ground with their eyes wide open in death. The fact that Jian Chen had killed 2 Earth Saint Masters as if it were nothing with just a flick of his finger had caused an endless amount of surprise to everyone watching. They had fled several meters away to maintain their safety as they gasped in shock at the sight. Even those who had been standing nearby Jian Chen had kept their distance. Not a single one of them dared to draw any closer as if afraid of causing trouble with this man. The single remaining survivor from the Heian clan had been dumbfounded by the strength of Jian Chen. He was fully aware of the strength of the two friends of his. They were stronger than even he was, so he was completely caught off guard that a young 20-something-year-old man would be able to kill them both so easily. But even despite his befuddlement, the man had quickly recovered. Without any hesitation in his decisions, he immediately turned around and fled. He was a clever person and knew that Jian Chen had a bone to pick with his clan. If he stayed behind, then he would have been killed like the other two friends of his. And so the only way to survive was to escape as well. Leveling a calm stare at the escaping man, Jian Chen raised his finger again and shot a beam of sword qi accurately onto the man's calf. The man had let out a pain-filled scream as the beam straight through his leg. With pain shooting straight up through his leg, the man's ability to run had been knocked for a loop, causing him to fall to the ground. Slowly walking on over to the middle-aged man, Jian Chen looked at him with cold eyes. Where is the Heian clan located? There had been no fear in the man's eyes as he snarled back at Jian Chen, I'm not afraid to die. Whether it's by torture or by illness, you'll never get anything from me. You didn't seem to look like tough guy. Jian Chen smiled. The youth that had been chased by these three men crawled up to his feet with a painful grit of his teeth. When he saw that the bird-like magical beast cub in his hands was unharmed, he let out a sigh in relief. After listening to what Jian Chen had said, he spoke, I know where the Heian clan is. His voice had been exuberantly weak since his internal organs were heavily injured as well. A fearsome glint entered Jian Chen's eyes as he took in this information. If someone else knows the answer, what use is there for you? He spoke. With a single burst of sword qi, he stabbed it straight into the last man's head. Afterwards, Jian Chen walked up to the other youth. When he saw just how heavily injured the youth was, Jian Chen gave a small pause of hesitation as if considering something. Then, he took out a radiant spirit pill from his space ring and handed it to him, eat this and recover your strength. You'll be taking me to the Heian clan, so traveling there as you are now would be inconvenient for the both of us. Sire, I thank you for your benevolence in saving me, but this item right here is far too precious for. The youth hesitated to take it. A Class 6 Radiant Spirit Pill is nothing for me. Eat it. Jian Chen waved his finger and levitated the pill into the youth's man and then throat. With the Radiant Spirit Pill ingested, the injuries that the youth had sustained was beginning to heal. Although it wasn't fully enough for a full recovery, it had served to heal him to a considerable degree. Sire, you've saved my life already, and now you're giving me such a precious Radiant Spirit Pill to treat my wounds. I am truly at a loss for what reason Sire would be so benevolent. The youth spoke gratefully. I have a bone to pick with the Heian clan, saving you was a convenient task to do on the way. There is no need for your thanks, take that pill as recompense for you guiding the way for me. Jian Chen smiled. Sire, your generosity has earned my respect. I am Wang Yufeng, how may I address sire? The man cupped his hands together. Your wounds have healed by now. Let us be on the way then. Take me to the Heian clan. Jian Chen replied. From this, Wang Yufeng knew that Jian Chen wasn't willing to give his own name and knew better than to continue asking for it. The Radiant Spirit Pill is truly a powerful pill. In such a short time, I feel my wounds already stabilized. Leading the way would be no problem at all with this short of a recovery rate. Sire, the Heian clan is about 5,000 kilometers away, please allow me to guide you there now. He spoke before starting to run. But just as he took a single step away, Jian Chen had already held his shoulder tightly and allowed for the wind elements in the world to carry them both. With the wind carrying them swiftly up into the air, the two of them quickly became the size of an ant before speeding away into the distance. Heavens! That young man was a Heaven Saint Master. No wonder he was able to kill those 3 Earth Saint Masters so easily. He was a Heaven Saint Master. The people on the streets had let out a cry of astonishment when they saw Jian Chen bring Wang Yufeng away into the air and began to gossip to one another. Looking down to see that the city below them was growing smaller and smaller, Wang Yufeng had been stunned. But soon enough, he recovered enough to look at Jian Chen in a completely different light. You're a Heaven Saint Master, he exclaimed in shock. He had truly found it hard to believe that a youth that was younger than him was actually a Heaven Saint Master. Could this youth use some sort of secret technique to alter his appearance? But as he thought, a sudden realization hit Wang Yufeng, causing him to blanch. Are you Jian Chen? Correct. Jian Chen confirmed. Ah. So you're Jian Chen. Straight away, Wang Yufeng's face adopted an extremely emotional expression. The name of Jian Chen was essentially the same as a clap of thunder. Not only was he the king of mercenaries, he was also a Heaven Saint Master that had been able to kill 5 Heaven Saint Masters outside of Mercenary City all by himself. Such a shocking battle prowess like this was absolutely breathtaking and was far more than enough for any youngster to idolize him. Wang Yufeng had been no exception to this. Wang Yufeng had absolutely no idea that the person that had saved him would actually be the illustrious king of mercenaries, Jian Chen. Compared to him, Wang Yufeng was almost worlds apart in power and fame and had thus left him utterly responseless. I did not think that I would be able to meet the renowned Jian Chen. To be able to meet your acquaintance is an honor that I, Wang Yufeng, had never felt before. Jian Chen, although I am not as strong as you are, I am a second cycle Earth Saint Master. If you will allow it, please allow me to accompany you in your travels. I will work as hard as a horse and as loyally as a dog. Wang Yufeng looked expectantly towards him. He had been earnest in serving a Heaven Saint Master. It would not hurt him in any way, especially if that Heaven Saint Master was a practically unlimited potential expert like him. Shooting a glance at Wang Yufeng, Jian Chen shook his head. I have plenty of enemies that are equally strong as I am in power. Following me would not be a good idea, or else you may find yourself stuck in a pit of eternal damnation. I, Wang Yufeng, am not afraid to die in order to live. I fear no enemy and truly wish to travel with you. It would be far more marvelous to travel with you than with myself. Jian Chen, please accept me into your group. He spoke in resolution. He knew that this was an extremely rare opportunity, so he was very unwilling to let it go. Jian Chen had hesitated for a brief moment when he saw how resolved Wang Yufeng was. Thinking about how few people there were in the Flame Mercenaries that were loyal to him, Jian Chen reconsidered it. Very well then, since my mercenary group is short-handed at the moment, I'll accept you into it. Jian Chen's reply had caused Wang Yufeng no small amount of joy and had him light up with excitement. Ah, why were the men of the Heian clan chasing you? Jian Chen asked curiously. A dark expression crossed Wang Yufeng's face in that moment. Looking down at the bird-like beast cub in his hands, he snarled, it was all because of this beast cub that I was chased. A month ago, I happened across a steel-winged beast nest in a nearby forest. There was only a single cub, so I was fortunate enough to obtain the cub after expending a large amount of my strength. But then the Heian clan accosted me on my way back and wanted to take it from me for their own greed. I knew that I wouldn't be able to take them on and fled for an entire month. Sometimes, I would barely escape death from their hands, and then it was at this final encounter that I was able to receive Lord Jian Chen's help. Chapter 622. The formidable chaotic force. Jian Chen turned to look at the magical beast cub in Wang Yufeng's hands. The beast cub was jet black in color, and was roughly the same size as his tiger cub. The wings of the bird looked as if they were made of hard iron, and looked similar to an eagle with its sharp sword-like beak. However, it was clear to see that this steel-winged beast was a newborn. It barely possessed any intelligence, and there was not a single bit of danger awareness to be seen. As such, it was currently quite content and quiet in Wang Yufeng's arms, unaware that the man who was holding it had killed its mother. Class 5 magical beast cubs that can fly are hard to obtain. If they are carefully bred from young until they mature, they will provide a great deal of assistance. However, riding a flying-type magical beast has its own risks associated with it. It would be best for a Heaven Saint Master to ride one. Jian Chen spoke. Wang Yufeng chuckled in response. I understand that line of reasoning. The nature of a magical beast is a vicious one which can often lead to them going berserk. I heard once that many of the more gentle flying-type magical beasts lose control of themselves, causing their riders to plummet to their deaths. However, I'm sure that I'll be able to reach the highest level of control with this one so that such an event will never happen. In any case, a steel-winged beast is a Class 5 magical beast. When their intelligence matures, they'll be far more stable unlike the lower-ranked magical beasts, so the chance of losing control of themselves should be very low. Jian Chen nodded his head in agreement. What you are saying makes sense. However, you must take advantage of the young age of the steel-winged beast and carefully nurture it. If it matures before you tame it, it'll only become harder. I know. For now, I will treat this little child as if it were my own. I will love it dearly. Wang Yufeng laughed. As they traveled, Jian Chen and Wang Yufeng talked to one another. On the way, they talked about plenty of things, allowing Jian Chen to gain a more in-depth understanding of Wang Yufeng. However, Jian Chen did not once ask about his background, meaning it was still a mystery to him. That was because when one answered such a question, it was only natural that they would ask the speaker the same question. Don't ask, don't tell. That was how to avoid any careless slip of the tongues. The base of the Heian clan was in a first-class city around 5,000 kilometers away. With Jian Chen carrying Wang Yufeng through the air, it took about 2 hours to arrive at the flourishing city. Afterward, Jian Chen traveled to a large manor that Wang Yufeng had pointed out to him. He hovered roughly 500 meters in the air above it. The fact that Jian Chen was using the wind elements in the world to travel had easily caught the attention of plenty of people below. One by one, they pointed at the floating figures in the air and started to gossip. The Tianzhu Kingdom was a country that could be said to be in the middling ranks. It was slightly stronger than the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, and Heaven Saint Masters could be said to hold mighty ranks here. Whenever one ventured out in public, they would catch the eyes of many people. Under Jian Chen's grasp, Wang Yufeng was able to point at the manor beneath him and say, "This is the place. This is the manor of the Heian clan." Without even needing to ask Wang Yufeng, Jian Chen could tell that this manor was indeed the base of operations for the Heian clan. That was because Jian Chen had already scoped out the place with his presence and had a very clear idea of the terrain. Above the gates at the entrance of the compound was a signboard that made it all too obvious just who lived here. Inside the manor, Jian Chen could detect 3 Heaven Saint Masters. One of them lacked both of his legs. It was the very same one that had tried to stop him in the Thousand Venom Valley and tried to take the tiger cub away from him. Heian clan, I, Jian Chen, am a man that keeps his word. I've come to settle the grudge made between us last year. And from today on, there will be no such thing as the Heian clan. Jian Chen cruelly smiled. With a wave of his hand, the energy of the world came bubbling forth at rapid speed to gather into a 10-meter-long sword made of fire. The heat that radiated off of the blade was scorching and immediately elevated the temperature of the surrounding area. With a brandish of his hand, the fire sword immediately disappeared into a blur of red lightning that struck the manor. Boom! An explosion dispelled the silence in the manor as a tremendous fire washed over the surrounding area. As the waves of flame billowed forth with great speed, the destruction of the manor continued without stop. In an instant, the previously tranquil Heian clan turned into a bonfire with flames that danced and roared. The blue sky above was covered by the pluming black smoke from the wreckage, making it extremely eye-catching to the people below. The interior of the manor was brought to a frenzy as countless servants and guards came running out of their rooms. When they saw the sea of flames, they all turned pale with fright and fled toward the outskirts with great panic as if afraid that the flames would incinerate them before they could escape. What in the world is going on? A middle-aged man cried out as he barged out of his room. Up until now, he hadn't even realized that someone had attacked the Heian clan. Quick! Put out the fire. One of the more elderly caretakers cried out, but not a single person had heard him due to the intensity of the flames and the sounds that accompanied them. A few measly buckets of water wouldn't be able to put a dent in this flames in any case. Someone has attacked our Heian clan. Be on your guard, I said. The captain of the guards immediately commanded the rest of the guards of the clan, but when he realized that there were people floating in the sky, his face paled drastically. No. The ones who've attacked us are Heaven's Saint Masters. That's not someone we can fight. Chew quick. Call out the Patriarch. At the warning of the captain, 3 separate entities flew out of the interior of the manor. The 3 men quickly soared to the heavens to meet with Jian Chen, and at the same time, an elderly voice called out with such volume that the ears of everyone else ached from it. You there, for what reason have you to attack my Heian clan? The elderly man called out with as much dignity as he could muster, but even his dignity could hardly hold back the furious anger the speaker had. Soon enough, the 3 Heaven Saint Masters arrived at the same altitude as Jian Chen. Standing shoulder to shoulder just 20 meters away from Jian Chen, each one of them looked ready to kill him. Who are you? State your name at once and why you are attacking my clan. The bald elder standing in the middle barked out as he grasped his sword. The sharp point of the sword glinted ominously, and if it were any regular person standing there, their valor surely would have dipped to non-existent levels. Ignoring the elder that spoke, Jian Chen stared at the elder without any legs next to him. Jian Chen gave him a cold smile. Perhaps you might recognize me? The elder without legs obviously recognized Jian Chen, and let out a gasp in shock. It's you. In his mind, he couldn't help but think of the legends he had been hearing as of late about Jian Chen. His heart skipped a beat, and he contemplated trying to flee. Third elder, who is he? Do you know him? The bald elder asked. He's the one who's been making waves recently with the rumors. The king of mercenaries, Jian Chen. The elder barked with a great deal of difficulty. The bald elder blanched as well when he heard that. What? He's Jian Chen. Prior to this, Jian Chen had killed 5 Heaven Saint Masters by himself outside of Mercenary City. Even the news of his fight with 2 saint rulers within the city had been heard by these elders. Such a powerful figure like that was not an opponent that the Heian clan could take on. Even with the 3 Heaven Saint Masters, they stood no chance at all. So you do remember me. Then, I presume you remember what I said to you years ago. I said it once. If I, Jian Chen, am not dead, then I'll be sure to annihilate your entire Heian clan. I have never once reneged my words before. I will not let a single one of my enemies escape, and today is the day I make good on that promise of mine. Jian Chen laughed. The 3 Heaven Saint Masters blanched at Jian Chen's words. While 2 of the 3 men there had not participated, they all knew just what event Jian Chen was referring to. Sire Jian Chen, my Heian clan was the one at fault during that time. We give our sincerest apology, and are willing to offer ample compensation. We ask that Sire Jian pardon our Heian clan, and we are more than willing to offer our assistance to you should you require us or our territory. The bald elder's intimidating glare melted away to adopt an apologetic smile. His voice gained a softer tone and no longer contained the iron edge from earlier. Unmoved by the proposal, Jian chuckled, "How lightly you treat your words. Back when I was on the verge of death because of your clan, this blood debt was formed. Just how could I give it up so easily? Only in your dreams." With that, Jian spoke no more and immediately shot toward the head of the leading Heaven Saint Master. The chaotic force began to cycle around his body, and with a flash of light from his dantian, the energy flew into his palm. Now that he could control the chaotic force, Jian palm took on a gray color as a destructive amount of power came forth. The surrounding area around his palm looked like water as it distorted with ripples and waves. At this one moment, Jian could feel the practically unlimited amount of power he was wielding. It was almost as if his hand could split apart the world around him, and a single punch could kill a Heaven Saint Master instantaneously. This would be the very first time he wielded such a tremendous power. With a grunt, Jian slapped the area around him with his palm, causing the space in front of the slap to distort so violently that a slight fissure formed. With such a destructive force being unleashed from his palm, it was as if a dragon had suddenly been let loose. Chapter 623, Destruction of the Heian clan. With such a destructive force being unleashed from his palm, it was as if a dragon had suddenly been let loose. The space beneath the strike surged violently as the powerful energy ravaged the area around it with dreadful might. The three Heaven Saint Masters could feel just how powerful Jian strike was from the surrounding space. It was like an icy block that froze the three of them in place. Moving even a single finger became difficult. The three Heaven Saint Masters had only enough time to turn pale in fright before the boundless wave of energy slammed against their bodies unceremoniously. In the face of such a tremendous amount of energy, the three Heaven Saint Masters folded as if they were ants. Without putting up any resistance, their bodies split apart into a violent display of blood and gore. The palm strike of Jian had not stopped there. The influx of energy completely shattered the bodies of the three Heaven Saint Masters before continuing to slam into the manor below. Boom! Following a tremendous cracking sound, the entire world seemed to shudder as if giving birth to an earthquake. Practically everyone in the city felt the ground beneath them shake, and several of the more shoddily built restaurants could not help but unsettlingly sway. Bits and pieces of the Heian clan's manor splintered into every single direction possible. At the center, the ruins of a tremendous strike could be seen. In an instant, the previously flourishing city was left a mess, and the Heian clan tragically suffered. The previous proud manor had been reduced to a ruined wasteland, and only smoke could be seen from what used to be the walls and roofs. At the very center of the manor grounds, a single hole about 100 meters wide and 10 meters deep could be seen. Furthermore, this giant influx of energy had damaged every single building within a kilometer radius. From the epicenter of the Heian clan, not a single building remained untouched by the blow. The might of the palm had caused such devastation. This was the power of a saint ruler. From his perch high in the sky, Jian observed his handiwork. He felt startled by the might of his own palm, and remained quiet for some time. He did not expect such devastation to occur after attacking the elders. Is this the power of the chaotic force? Jian thought to himself in surprise. The might of the chaotic force had indeed been out of his expectations. 3 of the Heian clan's Heaven Saint Masters had been killed so easily that it was almost as if they were nothing. His attack made him experience just how true the saying was, in front of a saint ruler, everyone else is an ant. That saying was a veritable truth. In front of a saint ruler, everyone else may as well be an ant. Even Wang Yufeng, who had been leading Jian, was rendered speechless by the devastation. His eyes were as round as plates, and his mouth had dropped open wide enough for an entire chicken egg to fit in it from his shock. He could see that Jian had only struck with his palm, yet that attack had killed 3 Heaven Saint Masters. Furthermore, it had brought forth such devastation. It truly filled him with disbelief, and for a moment, he doubted what he was seeing. He wasn't a Heaven Saint Master, but even he understood that a Heaven Saint Master shouldn't be able to cause this much destruction. Could Jian Chen already be a... Wang Yufeng suddenly began to shiver as a question popped in his head. This thought that had suddenly popped in his head was so terrifying that even he wished to stop thinking about the answer. Plenty of people gathered in the surrounding area of the Heian clan to see the outcome. A procession of soldiers had already formed as well, but even they could only look up in misery at the floating figures above. Each spectator remained silent, completely shocked at the sight. The army of soldiers didn't dare say a thing. Despite the destruction of part of the city, not a single one of them was brave enough to even fart right now. The Heian clan held an extremely lofty and powerful status within the city. They had been the strongest faction in the city and had been considered second to none even in the kingdom they resided. However, this mighty faction had been wiped out in an instant, and against their assailant, they might as well have been nothing. This was something that every single spectator found hard to believe. Half a moment later, Jian Chen finally let out a long turbulent sigh to control his emotions. With a wave of his hand, he tossed several space rings into the hands of several people down below. "We're going," he informed Wang Yufeng before turning around to leave the city, leaving behind the dumbfounded citizens of the city. It had only taken a single wave of his palm to cause an irrevocable amount of damage to the Heian clan. The blood debt that Jian Chen had with the Heian clan could be considered to be done and over with. The following days after, Jian Chen relentlessly continued to try to find the whereabouts of the Jiedu clan. The Jiedu clan remained true to their label as a hermit family, staying hidden in a forest or mountain somewhere. They were an isolated faction that never showed their faces to the world, causing Jian Chen to hear absolutely nothing that could lead him to their location. In fact, many of the people Jian Chen asked had never even heard of their name before. However, the gods were willing to reward the hard-working man. On the third day of Jian Chen's laborious attempt to learn of the Jiedu clan's whereabouts, a relatively strong sect reported that they knew of the Jiedu clan. Jian Chen brought Wang Yufeng with him there. The Jiedu clan was said to have been founded at the core of a mountain with countless of magical beasts standing guard around it. There was no shortage of Class 5 magical beasts there, and there were several Class 6 magical beasts that the clan had tamed. They were trained to guard the gates and to prevent any outsiders from entering. Jian Chen brought Wang Yufeng to a spot 20 kilometers away from the reported mountain ridge. He then stared off into the distance at the series of buildings that sprung up from the ridge. "Wang Yufeng, you stay here. I will be fighting a saint ruler. Taking you there would only serve to hurt you." At the mention that Jian Chen was about to start trouble with a saint ruler, Wang Yufeng's heart began to beat frantically. It was with great concern that he said, "Jian Chen, your opponent is a man who became a saint ruler many years ago. Furthermore, this is his domain. If you're going in there alone, you must be careful. Relax. I'll be fine, but you must make sure to hide yourself away. Don't let the men of the Jiedu clan catch you. There might not be any magical beasts around here, but make sure that you don't get caught by one nonetheless. Hide yourself now," Jian Chen instructed before flying into the air to reach the Jiedu clan. Chapter 624, Challenging the Jiedu clan. There was a place in the backmost courtyards of the Jiedu clan that the majority of people were forbidden from entering. This forbidden place was what many of the clan members considered to be a type of holy ground. Practically everyone bowed reverently in the direction of these grounds when standing near them. The patriarch of the Jiedu clan would often shut himself off from the world in this forbidden place to focus on his cultivation. He was the sole saint ruler of the Jiedu clan and was the sole reason for the Jiedu clan's status as a hermit clan. Within a flower garden in the forbidden zone, all sorts of flowers were blooming in a stunning fashion. A rich aroma wafted through the air, and a large rabble of butterflies could be seen flapping their wings gently as they traveled through the air, giving this deathly quiet area a vibrant feeling of life. At the very center of the flower garden was a wooden house. This wooden house clearly looked as if it had stood for a very long time. The wood was ancient, but despite that, it remained standing with signs of damage from the passage of time. It had clearly been worn down to the point where it looked as if it would collapse. Like an elderly man that seemed destined to fall at any moment, this house looked as if it was about to collapse on itself with a single totter. Within the house, the patriarch of the Jedi clan sat at a wooden table in the center of the room. His eyebrows were furrowed together as if deep in thought, and his face was covered with a look of worry. Ever since his escape from Mercenary City, the man had been living in unease without a day of solace. When he had first realized what was happening in Mercenary City, he had been deeply influenced by it. Jian Shen was able to do as he pleased in Mercenary City without restraint, and for the life of him, the patriarch could not understand why. As a 2,000-year-old saint ruler, Patriarch Jedi knew a lot about the world. Even the barrier of Mercenary City was known to him to several degrees, and he knew that its capabilities were something that a Heaven Saint Master could never hope to match. Jian Shen had violated the laws of Mercenary City, but he had not been punished. In the eyes of an outsider, Jian Shen had clearly some sort of connection with the power holders of the city, but Patriarch Jedi didn't truly believe in that. He knew that the barrier of the city had gained sentient life, which had given rise to the rumors of the spirit of the barrier. It had already been countless of years since its birth, and the status it wielded in Mercenary City was something practically no one could ever touch aside from the founder of the city himself, Mo Tianyan. Not a single person could command the spirit of the barrier, not even the Grand Elder. Patriarch Jedi was completely convinced that the reason why Jian Shen had escaped punishment had nothing to do with having a relationship with the power holders of Mercenary City. The elder was puzzled by the method Jian Shen used to escape punishment. He was more worried about Jian Shen's talents and the fact that he could not locate the Duanyan sword than the method Jian Shen used to escape punishment. Patriarch Jedi was more than aware that Jian Shen was skilled enough to reach the realm of a saint ruler soon. With such a powerful entity as an enemy, the Patriarch knew that it would lead to nothing good. However, the undeniable importance of the Patriarch's ruler armament meant he was extremely unwilling to forget about it. Not only was the ruler armament a treasure to the Jedi clan as their symbol of power, it was also passed down from generation to generation from the previous Patriarch. It held meaning beyond all else and would be a great boon to him when he attempted to cross over to become a Saint King. A Saint Ruler at the 9th heavenly layer would be able to fuse with a ruler armament, and in the case that one was successful in doing so, that Saint Ruler's chances of making the breakthrough to becoming a Saint King would skyrocket. I absolutely cannot return to Mercenary City, but if Jian Shen spends the rest of his life in Mercenary City without leaving, what good will that be? With time, even he'll become a Saint Ruler, and when the time comes, he definitely won't be easy to deal with. It seems I have no other choice. Even if I cannot take back the ruler armament, I cannot allow Jian Shen to live any longer. Otherwise, he'll bring doom and destruction to the Jedi clan. The Patriarch muttered to himself. Suddenly, a tremendous power from outside suddenly made itself known to him. Sensing this provoking aura, the Patriarch sat upright. What power? Who might that be? He wondered aloud to himself before flying outside to greet the invader of his territory. Just 100 meters above the Jedi clan, the white-robed Jian Shen hovered in place, icily looking down below him. His eyes were intimidating, and his aura was not concealed at all. It was there for the entirety of the Jedi clan to notice and tremble under. Suddenly, 10 different figures came flying up to greet him. One by one, they surrounded Jian Shen in a tight ring with unfavorable expressions. Roar! 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 4 heaven-shaking roars could be heard as 4 different magical beasts came flying forward from different directions. Shortly afterward, the entire forest seemed to shake as the silent Class 6 magical beast protectors sensed the abnormality in the area and came to greet Jian Shen. These Class 6 magical beasts were not similar to the ones born in the wild lands of Cross Mountains. They were born and bred from the careful and painstaking energy of the Jedi clan. As a result, the friendship between magical beast and humans had reached a skin-tight relationship. Over these years, These Class 6 magical beasts had spent their entire lives protecting the clan silently against any invader or mercenary that dared to draw too close. Boom! 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 Following 3 separate muffled explosions, 4 large magical beasts made their way into Jian Chen's line of sight. Jumping from the mountain range, the magical beasts were like miniature mountains themselves. With each step they took, the earth beneath them shook. They were pitch black in color and stood on 2 legs exactly like how a human stood. The only exception was that their heights were roughly 30 meters tall, a height far taller than a human. Boom! Another muffled explosion reverberated across the sky as the 4 Class 6 magical beasts positioned themselves 200 meters away from Jian Chen. They stood in the cardinal directions, surrounding Jian Chen yet again. Hemophilic apes. Jian Chen recognized the 4 Class 6 magical beasts, feeling slightly surprised. Hemophilic apes were a type of magical beasts that had particularly bloodthirsty and violent tendencies. They were, as a result, extremely hard to tame, but the Jita clan had somehow managed to perfectly tame 4 of them as protectors. To Jian Chen, this feat was by no means a minor one. "Sire, who might you be? State your name and reason for coming." An elder intimidatingly barked at Jian Chen. There had been no kind edge to his voice since Jian Chen had purposely intruded upon the Jita clan with such a powerful aura that was obviously intended to provoke the experts of the clan. Folding his arms against his chest, Jian Chen stared at the several Heaven Saint Masters around him with a smile. "I'm the one you've been looking for, Jian Chen. I came today to visit your Jita clan." "What? You're Jian Chen? So you're Jian Chen, you have the guts to come knocking on our door to seek your death." As soon as they learned who he was, everyone felt surprised. Shortly after their surprise, they all laughed as a tremendous spike of killing intent suddenly erupted from their bodies. Roar! Sensing the hostility in their owners, the 4 hemophilic apes immediately identified Jian Chen as an enemy. One by one, they let out a roar that shook the heavens as a bloodthirsty light entered their fist-sized pupils. The tiger cub on Jian Chen's shoulder was none too pleased at the 4 Class 6 magical beasts' aggressive behavior. Standing up, the cub let loose a mighty roar toward the 4 apes. Although the cub was extremely proud, it was still a Class 4 magical beast in strength. It was not yet mature enough to deal with 4 Class 6 magical beasts. Thus, the action of the tiger cub had not been an attempt to fight the 4 beasts but to completely infuriate them. As expected, the 4 apes let out a furious howl before charging at Jian Chen with great cumbersome steps. Not only did the Jita clan do nothing to stop the 4 hemophilic apes, they took several steps away to give them space to fight. They knew of Jian Chen's strength and how he had been able to best 4 Heaven Saint Masters' Heaven-tier battle skills before killing the 4. His strength was not something that they could easily overlook, so they wanted the 4 apes to test his strength first. As if coordinating with one another, the 4 apes charged at Jian Chen before leaping into the air. Their mountainous bodies were like great big cranes as they took flight, making their way 100 meters into the air where Jian Chen was. Staring at the 4 hemophilic apes in disdain as they charged at him, Jian Chen smiled cruelly. With a flip of his hand, a condensed blob of chaotic force encompassed it before he moved to slap them down. Chapter 625, Showdown with a Saint Ruler. 1. The amount of power that Jian Chen held in his hand rippled across the entire mountainous area as if it were a heavy weight. With speed as fast as lightning but no thunder to accompany it, the area beneath the strike started to look even more cramped than before. Then, it seemed as if the entire area had frozen in time. The 4 hemophilic apes had only gotten within 50 meters of Jian Chen before they were frozen in place. They had only been 30 meters in the air, but even their gigantic bodies were rooted firmly in place. Boom! Following their inability to move, a fierce amount of energy ruthlessly smashed into the bodies of the 4 apes, causing the Class 6 magical beasts to crash back down to the ground as fast as they came up. As they fell, blood was pouring from not only their mouths, but also their eyes, ears, noses, and even pores. Smashing against the ground with a terrible rumbling sound, the 4 hemophilic apes landed so roughly that the entire area shook several times as fissures started to form. Even the mountain ridge started to collapse. A 10-meter deep hole now spanned a perimeter of several hundred meters. In the center, 4 separate craters could be seen from where the 4 hemophilic apes had landed. Yet, there was no movement from within the crater. Whether they were still alive or not was a complete mystery. The men from the Jeda clan felt their jaws drop at the unbelievable sight in front of them. As if a storm was being waged in their minds, they were deeply affected by the sight. Jian Chen's strength was something that left them all speechless. It had only taken a single palm to defeat 4 Class 6 magical beasts to such a degree. Was this really the strength of a Heaven Saint Master? Against these 4 hemophilic apes, even a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master would be unable to defeat them soundly without a Heaven tier battle skill. This was the difference in natural strength between humanity and magical beast. However, Jian Chen only needed a single palm strike to defeat them. What kind of power was that? Slowly taking back his hand, Jian Chen stared at the 4 hemophilic apes. These 4 Class 6 magical beasts are quite strong since they survived even after receiving this palm strike of mine. They're stronger than the Heaven Saint Masters of the Heian clan at the very least. Are you really Jian Chen? After a long while, one of the elders finally inquired with a stare of disbelief. He didn't dare believe that the youth that had become the king of mercenaries was so unbelievably strong. Each and every participant of the gathering of the mercenaries was under the age of 50, so a youth with that much strength was simply far too much. Isn't this the strength of a saint ruler? A woman despondently asked. There's no possible way Jian Chen should have a strength like that. Who are you? Another man skeptically inquired. They had never seen Jian Chen before and were thus not sure of what he looked like. Giving a cold smile, Jian Chen was about to open his mouth to say something when something out of the corner of his eyes caught his attention, causing him to look there. The space in the direction he was looking at was starting to distort to reveal a white-robed elder with long hair and a scholarly aura. This was the patriarch of the Jeda clan and the sole remaining saint ruler. We pay our respects to the patriarch. The 10 Heaven Saint Masters immediately bowed out of respect to him. The patriarch ignored the bowing members of his clan in favor of observing Jian Chen. When he recognized his face, the patriarch immediately froze in disbelief. The person that he wanted to capture at all costs had actually taken the initiative to come to him. This revelation was startling to say the least. The expression on the patriarch's face hardened as he said, Jian Chen, it really is you. Correct, it is I. Today, I've come to pay a visit to your clan. Jian Chen smiled as he cupped his hands in mock salute. He exuded the air of a regal prince, and if anyone else were to look at the two, they would have assumed that Jian Chen was a good friend of the patriarch. Letting out a cold snort, the patriarch ignored Jian Chen's actions. He swept his eyes down to the 4 deep craters and then back to Jian Chen with a solemn expression. Jian Chen, did you do this? What other person is there here but me? Jian Chen smiled. Impossible. The patriarch barked with narrowed eyes. Glaring at him, the patriarch said, Jian Chen, it has only been a few months at most since we last met. How did you become so strong so quickly? Did you make the breakthrough from a Heaven Saint Master to a saint ruler? In his final few words, the patriarch grew more and more emotional. By the end, he was no longer as calm as before. In this world of extraordinary things, there is no such thing as an impossibility, but there is something I can tell you at the very least. I am still a Heaven Saint Master. Jian Chen replied. He was indeed the same rank as before, but he had gained the fighting prowess of a saint ruler when he had attained the minor achievement of the chaotic body. He had not yet comprehended the profound mysteries of the world, and thus, could not be considered a saint ruler. The patriarch let loose a sigh of relief at those words. The sudden thought from before had been causing his heart to skip a beat in fright. A youth not even 50 years old becoming a saint ruler was far too terrifying of a thought to exist in this world. A cold smile couldn't help but appear on Jian Chen's face when he saw the expression of the patriarch. Don't you wish to take back the ruler armament of your clan? Since I'm here, why don't you try and get it back? Instantly, the patriarch regained his calm demeanor in order to make a quick observation to see if there were any hidden experts around. He very much doubted the fact that Jian Chen would travel here alone. Such an action was akin to delivering oneself to death in a sense. But, even after a series of scans, the patriarch came up with nothing. There was nobody hidden nearby. With the sudden calm on the patriarch's face, Jian Chen let loose a snicker to himself. If you're not going to make a move, allow me to make the first move. Take my palm then. Another burst of chaotic force appeared in Jian Chen's palm before he flew forward to slap the patriarch. A tremendous amount of energy appeared, distorting and applying pressure to the space around them. The patriarch immediately felt his body be locked in place. Having received this prison of energy around him, the patriarch immediately felt shock register on his face. He had not thought that Jian Chen would become so strong in such a short amount of time. Despite his shock, the patriarch was not slow to respond. With a loud shout, his own energy come bursting from his body, shattering the frigid space around him. The space regained its natural state as the energies clashed and equalized. The patriarch's figure flickered, and he looked as if he was blending with the world itself. With this ability to control space itself, he was able to instantaneously travel 100 meters to where Jian Chen was. Jian Chen let loose his slap. The burst of chaotic force that accompanied the slap continued forward with reckless abandon before finally smashing into the side of a mountain. Boom! A fierce explosion rang through the air as the mountain was reduced to fragments that flew off in every direction. The mountain itself had been reduced to absolutely nothing. Impossible. You've become a saint ruler. The patriarch cried out involuntarily. This blow had caused his heart to stop beating for a brief moment. The power that had been contained in Jian Chen's hand was something only a saint ruler would be capable of. The 10 heaven saint masters of the Jedi clan were startled as well. Many of them started to pale. A saint ruler at such a youthful age was far too shocking. Retreat! One of the elders cried out before every single one of them scattered into every direction possible. A battle between saint rulers was not something any heaven saint master could get involved with. If they drew close, they would only be caught in the crossfire. Jian Chen didn't speak a word and instead sent another chaotic force-infused palm strike toward the patriarch. Sensing the tremendous power coming at him, the patriarch did not choose to dodge. Instead, he boomed out, Jian Chen, you may have stepped into the realm of a saint ruler, but you are only at the first layer and nothing more. I'll show you just how big of a difference there is from the first heavenly layer and the fourth heavenly layer. An endless amount of energy began to seep from the patriarch's body, causing the space around him to quiver. With a brandish of his hand, he sent energy flying toward Jian Chen's strike. As the attack traveled through the air, the space around it started to warp and twist in on itself. Boom! The two bundles of energy collided in mid-air against each other, causing yet another explosion. The sound of the explosion was ear-piercing, and even the highest point of the heavens would be able to hear the crackling sound from it. For a brief moment, everyone nearby lost their ability to hear. The remaining dregs of energy that sloughed off from the blast spiraled into the surrounding area, and a decent few kilometers of forest below had been obliterated. A translucent barrier appeared during the blast to protect the manor of the Jedi clan. The barrier shivered for a brief moment when the turbulent energy struck it, but it managed to resist the blow with some difficulty. Chapter 626, Showdown with a Saint Ruler, 2. The tremendous clash of energy persisted for a while before finally starting to ebb away. At a glance, one could see that the previously untouched mountain ridges protecting the Jedi clan had been reduced to a complete mess. Not a single part of the range resembled the pristineness it had exuded before. A battle between saint rulers was far more powerful and devastating than a battle between heaven saint masters. Jian Chen and the patriarch of the Jedi clan floated several hundred meters away from one another. In this one battle between them, they were equally matched, neither held an advantage over the other. The patriarch revealed a cross look on his face. Jian Chen's strength was completely unexpected and far beyond his imagination. It left a sour taste in his mouth. A saint ruler of several hundred years was being forced down by the newly crossed-over saint ruler, Jian Chen. From the exchange they just had, Jian Chen's strength wasn't unmanageable. But how did he cultivate so fast? It was only a few months at most, but his strength has increased by leaps and bounds to the point where his strength is comparable to mine. His talent is far too terrifying. If he can accomplish so much at his young age, I'd imagine that it'd only take him another 100 years to become a saint king. The patriarch quietly muttered to himself. Already, he was starting to see Jian Chen in an entirely different light. Back in Mercenary City, Jian Chen had only been a junior with decent skill to him. Thus, Jian Chen was someone that could be disregarded like an ant, but after several months, this ant had suddenly swelled up to a tremendous size. It could pose trouble even for him, and that was something that did not sit well with him. Jian Chen's growth was far too fast. It was so fast that the entire continent would be stunned by it. 100 meters away, Jian Chen stared down the patriarch with a calm face. His eyes were intimidating, and his body released a tremendous aura that shot into the air with an impressive amount of energy. At the moment, he looked like some sort of war god that towered over everyone else with indomitable strength. To be even more specific, he was like some sort of undefeatable god of the sword that was ready to split the world with his powerful sword chi. Suddenly, a gray-colored energy began to float around Jian Chen's body. This was an incoming surge of chaotic force, gathering wisp by wisp in his hand. Soon enough, his palm was twinkling with a gray-colored light. With such a large amount of energy gathered, the space around it started to twist and distort once more. When the patriarch sensed the amount of energy gathering in Jian Chen's palm, he grew serious as well. As a saint ruler, he was able to sense that the energy in Jian Chen's hand was far stronger than his own saint force. This realization was extremely troubling and he was left no time to hesitate. With both arms moving into action, his palms moved in front of his chest to accumulate an extremely mystical power that attracted the profound mysteries of the world. As his hands moved, the space surrounding him started to flow like water. It was like some sort of mysterious power was accelerating the flow of time. At this sight, the 10 Heaven Saint Masters that were watching knew that the two combatants were charging up their attacks. Without even needing to be told, they immediately grabbed the people hiding behind the manor's barrier and fled as far as possible. They could not guarantee that the barrier would be able to hold up against both Jian Chen and their patriarch's attack. Several seconds passed before Jian Chen took the first move. With his palm thrusting forward, the chaotic force that had accumulated in his palm came flying out like a stream of water. Carrying a tremendous power, the chaotic force traveled toward the patriarch. Ha! At the same time, the patriarch let out a deep grunt. His palms shot out as fast as lightning, letting loose the mysterious energy he had been accumulating. This energy contained the profound mysteries of the world. It could not be seen nor felt by those who did not comprehend it. It was something that fused with the world and space itself, mysteriously and indescribably. When the two energies collided in the air, the expected explosion from the collision of these two energies, strangely, did not happen. There was no fallout from the energies washing over the surrounding area either. Instead, the space where they collided gave a mighty shudder and shake as the energies tore it apart. A single meter-long fissure appeared in the sky, but was quickly patched back up by the world. At the very center of the collision was a single black hole, but unlike any normal black hole, there was an extremely faint light from a star that could be seen inside. Jian Chen's chaotic force was stuck in a deadlock with the patriarch's profound mysteries of the world, in a constant struggle to win over the other. Eventually, both powers tried to cancel each other out as their energies began to fade. Within several seconds, Jian Chen's chaotic force ended up the winner of the exchange while the profound mysteries of the world had been completely used up. The remaining chaotic force had not been slowed in the slightest. It continued to fly toward the patriarch. What is this energy? How is it so powerful? The patriarch cried out in astonishment. Pushing out with his palms again, he forced out even more saint force from his body to try and counteract the slightly weaker chaotic force. Master, you can't keep going on like this. Your usage of chaotic force is far too much. Also, the true might of it is not being displayed. It is only with the chaotic body that the chaotic force can show its true might. Ziying's voice explained in Jian Chen's mind. Jian Chen's heart skipped a beat after hearing this. He immediately gave up the idea of using the chaotic force as a projectile against his enemy. At a thought, the wind elements in the world gathered around him, surrounding Jian Chen with an azure light. Jian Chen flew straight for the patriarch. Master, the chaotic force should be distributed throughout the body to show off the might of the chaotic body. Qingsua instructed with a sing-song voice in Jian Chen's mind. They were extremely knowledgeable about the chaotic force, unlike Jian Chen, who had only just made contact with it. He was a complete stranger to this powerful energy, and required the two sword spirits to guide him on how to use it. Chapter 627, Showdown with a Saint Ruler. 3. Jian Chen didn't hesitate in his actions after listening to the sword spirits. Like an obedient schoolchild, he immediately swallowed some of the chaotic force from his dantian and spread it throughout his body. With the fusion of the two, Jian Chen immediately felt the strength of his body elevate to a higher level in terms of defensive might. Once the chaotic force had spread through his body, Jian Chen didn't even feel the chaotic force dissipate. It continued to maintain that same level of strength throughout his body without being used at all. The following moments after he had used the chaotic force to strengthen himself, Jian Chen felt his entire body continue to operate at an extremely boosted level. During that moment, Jian Chen drew closer to the patriarch. His palm became a fist filled with chaotic force meant to punch the patriarch. As the fist traveled, the surrounding space around it violently trembled. Jian Chen wasn't adept in close combat fighting with his own body, but Jian Chen didn't worry about any threats because the powerful chaotic force had been joined with the chaotic body. The patriarch was startled at Jian Chen's choice of attack, but then a small smile appeared on his face as he said, Jian Chen, this old man has a considerably strong body. Allow me to teach you a good lesson with it. Without delay, the patriarch's right hand formed a claw shape as it filled with saint force. That hand flew toward Jian Chen's neck while his left hand moved to block Jian Chen's punch. The patriarch of the Jita clan was without a doubt a saint ruler. He was one who had peered into the abyss that was the profound mysteries of the world and understood the secrets to space. A fist of his contained the powers of space, and was extremely fast as a result. It moved so quickly that Jian Chen had no time to dodge the attack. Thus, the man to grab Jian Chen by his throat. Jian Chen felt startled to see the hand reach his throat. Although the chaotic force was still spread throughout his body and boosted it to an unbelievable level, Jian Chen was fighting a saint ruler either way. He wasn't even sure of how strong he was with his body as it was right now. He was unsure whether or not he could survive the saint ruler's strike to his throat. The saint ruler easily grasped onto Jian Chen's weak point. This made the patriarch feel extremely joyful, and with a twinkle of killing intent in his eyes, he laughed. Jian Chen, you may have stepped into the realm of saint rulers, but you've clearly not understood the mystery that is space. Allow this old man to send you to your death. With the final word, the patriarch squeezed his right hand, trying to snap Jian Chen's neck. After the patriarch clenched his hand, he came to the startling realization that what he was holding was not flesh and blood, it was something many times harder than steel and stone. The look of joy on the patriarch's face slipped away with the realization. Staring at Jian Chen in shock, he asked through his befuddlement, How did your throat become this tough? By now, Jian Chen's body was completely filled with chaotic force and boasted a defensive might that was startling. Even a saint ruler wouldn't be able to leave a scratch no matter how hard he tried. One wouldn't even be able to snap Jian Chen's neck. Jian Chen was filled with an endless amount of joy while he calmed himself down. At the same time, Jian Chen's right palm made contact with the patriarch's palm. With a sharp crack, the bones in the patriarch's right arm fractured. Letting out a deep grunt in pain, the patriarch watched as his right arm lifelessly drooped down to his side. Jianshen also grunted as the chaotic force in his right arm cycled. Jianshen punched at the patriarch's chest, but the space around his fist froze up, allowing his punch to travel even faster. After experiencing Jianshen's punch once, the patriarch was now painfully aware of how strong his fist was. Unwilling to allow himself to be used as a punching bag, the patriarch's body flickered into non-existence. By borrowing the power of space, he was able to retreat several meters away where the frozen space Jianshen had created did not affect him. Bang! The fist of Jianshen impacted against the sky, letting loose a muffled explosion while space became heavily distorted. Jianshen did not hesitate to let out a loud hiss after his punch missed. He charged straight for the patriarch, who was still several meters away, as his fighting intent rapidly increased. The patriarch's face hardened when he felt the amount of power in Jianshen swell up. Swiftly turning around, he borrowed the power of space once more to retreat several hundred meters away. Once there, he began to condense his saint force into his right hand. In a second, a sword made of fire appeared in it. The flames that flickered off the blade were so intense that they seemed to burn the very space around them. And now, this old man won't be holding back any longer. Let this old man have some good fun. The patriarch spat. After these several exchanges, he knew that this was no time to hold back, otherwise, there would be no way to counter this upstart of a youngster. Chapter 628, Subjugation. 1. The patriarch of the Jeddah clan was one with the space around him. In his current state of harmony, he was free to travel almost instantaneously toward Jianshen. His saint weapon resplendently shined as it flew at Jianshen. Following the path of the blade, a fissure about 2 meters wide was torn asunder. Even Jianshen felt slightly intimidated by the might of this sword swing. He knew that his chaotic body had been strong enough to endure a throat-crushing experience, but this time he was facing the edge of an extremely sharp weapon. Compared to a claw, a sword was far more intimidating. Jianshen had no guarantees that he would be able to survive this attack as easily as the strike before. The power that came from a saint ruler when they used their saint weapon was not insignificant. Unwilling to take the sword head-on, Jianshen decided to evade by dodging to the side. However, he was still a heaven saint master. It was true that he had the battle strength of a saint ruler, but Jianshen had not been blessed with an iota of comprehension of the profound mysteries of the world. This one-sword swing of the patriarch was imbued with the powers of space itself. Jianshen was left with no bargaining power as he tried to dodge the sword. In the end, Jianshen was struck in the chest by the flaming sword. However, the sword did not pierce his body as expected. When the moment came for the saint weapon to make contact with Jianshen's chest, the forward momentum of the sword came to a grinding halt, and moved no further. Despite its unbelievably sharp point and the power behind it, it was only capable of cutting through a shallow layer of skin, drawing a dot of blood. Patriarch Jeddah's irises dilated to practically a needle circumference as he gasped in shock at the small point of damage on Jianshen's chest. He couldn't believe it. While he didn't put his entire might into this one swing, it was still roughly 80% of his raw might. This energy could destroy the world around him if directed, yet Jianshen was still floating in front of him practically unharmed. Such a sight was far too much for him to accept. Jianshen looked down at the mosquito bite-like injury on his chest, and an extremely wide smile graced his face. A saint ruler had used his saint weapon, yet it was ineffective. This only went to show just how strong the chaotic body was. Now, Jianshen was no longer afraid of the patriarch. Master, Ziying and Qingxua haven't yet recovered our strength, so the origin energy is not yet comparable to the chaotic force. During this battle, please use the chaotic force in your body instead. Your chaotic body and chaotic force are only at a rudimentary level, a level so rudimentary that it cannot even be considered as the chaotic body or chaotic force, but it should pose no threat when fighting a saint ruler of this world. Ziying spoke in Jianshen's mind. Jian Chen immediately gave up the notion of using the origin energy of the sword spirits to fight. The chaotic force within his body began to surge and bubble like the water in a river. A moment later, it had covered his entire body before Jian Chen rushed to fight the patriarch. He wasn't skilled in close combat fighting, but there wasn't a suitable weapon available that he could use. He couldn't even use the origin energy. The circumstances were pushing him to use his fists. The patriarch easily dodged Jian Chen's fist and moved behind him. He brandished his saint weapon and swung it with all his might to strike Jian Chen down. Like lightning, the saint weapon arched into Jian Chen's back, but the attack only served to cut away his robes, revealing his unblemished skin. Shortly afterward, a small white line appeared where the blade had cut him. Blood could be seen dripping from the white line. With his white skin as contrast, the blood was very eye-catching. The patriarch could only stare in mute shock at the wound on Jian Chen's back as his skin regenerated back to its original state as if it had been completely unharmed in the first place. The patriarch had used his entire strength to cut down Jian Chen, but the end result was a slight paper-cut-like wound that instantaneously healed itself. Impossible. The patriarch stuttered. He was completely dumbfounded by this result where only an insignificant wound had been inflicted. The tiger cub hiding on Jian Chen's shoulder had been affected by the tremendous aura of the Saint Ruler, causing it to let out a small, frantic cry. It clung to Jian Chen's neck with both its paws. The cub seemed like it was about to collapse. Feeling the slight burn that traveled up his spine, a malevolent glint appeared on Jian Chen's face. Moving the tiger cub from his shoulder to under his left arm, Jian Chen moved to punch the patriarch. In fierce battle between Jian Chen and the patriarch, both combatants were using their entire strength. Each attack they threw out was capable of destroying the world around them. When their attack impacted against something, a tremendous sound resonated and great winds erupted. One after another, fissures appeared in the space around them. They sucked in the light of the world, revealing twilight in the holes. By now, the forest around them was a desolate place. The battle in the sky continued for a very long time without stop. Soon enough, the manor of the Jetta clan had been utterly wiped out and leveled with only remnants of the place to be seen scattered about. The members of the clan had long since evacuated the place with the help of the 10 Heaven Saint Masters. They were in a safe area several dozen kilometers away. Jian Chen felt very sullen about the current progress of the battle. It had been dragging on for so long, but he was never able to make contact with even the robes of the patriarch. Each time he tried, the patriarch of the Jetta clan would escape. On the inverse, he didn't even know just how many blows the patriarch had landed on him. The Jetta patriarch strikes had not been a threat to him because of the immensity of the chaotic force. The wounds Jian Chen sustained only took a small moment to heal without leaving a mark. Although Jian Chen possessed the strength of a saint ruler, he was still a heaven saint master that hadn't comprehended the profound mysteries of the world. Without that comprehension, he could only defend against a saint ruler. There was no way he could land a finishing blow or even manage to seriously injure one. Unless the saint ruler gave up on using space to evade, Jian Chen had no other choice but to continue. Hovering 1,000 meters in the sky, the patriarch stared at Jian Chen. Jian Chen, after this long fight, you and I are getting nowhere. Why don't we stop here? Fighting any longer would only be a meaningless waste of time. After battling for so long, the patriarch knew he couldn't harm his opponent even though held the advantage over Jian Chen. Even if he went all out, Jian Chen would only experience scratches. Jian Chen came to a stop in the sky as well. A slight tint of azure light wrapped his body as if he was gathering the energy of the world to make him fly. It was unlike the patriarch's ability to fly without using the elements at all. Patriarch Jetta, I am unable to harm you, but the future Jian Chen will definitely remember this grudge. He will visit once more and ensure that a disastrous payment will be taken from your clan. Jian Chen emotionlessly replied. He had been extremely angry and sullen at the beginning of the fight, and had lost all his fear earlier. Jian Chen was now trying to intimidate the patriarch since he couldn't harm him. Chapter 629, Subjugation. 2. The patriarch had an ugly look on his face while he listened to Jianchen. He knew that Jianchen wasn't joking, and with the talent Jianchen possessed, he would only skyrocket in strength from here on out. If the patriarch waited any longer, it would only be a matter of time before Jianchen would become a threat that he couldn't handle. However, the patriarch had no way of dealing with Jianchen even now. As the patriarch floated in midair, the twinkle in his eyes flickered unsteadily as if he was arguing with himself internally. Several moments passed before the patriarch finally made up his mind. He grit his teeth to say, "Jianchen, it's better to let sleeping dogs lie rather than wake them. You were the one who started this affair. We only wish to take back what you stole from us, and while my Jita clan was a little excessive in some fronts, you've completely destroyed my Jita clan's home. The home that we have stayed hidden in for thousands of years has been reduced to nothing. We can no longer live here, therefore, we should wipe away the debt. From today on, our two sides should give up this war." "Your words are cheap." Jianchen snorted. "If you said this to me before, I would have considered those words seriously, but your Jita clan is no longer an object of worry to me. Don't even try to delude yourself into thinking I won't chase you down." A dark light crossed over the patriarch's face as he said in a low voice, "Jianchen, I cannot do a thing to you, but you cannot do a thing to me either. If you won't consider your own well-being, why not consider the well-being of those by your side? The Jita clan may be a hermit clan that rarely meets with the outside world, but we still have many methods of finding out where you live and who is closest to you. You dare." Jianchen immediately spat out with a terrifying glare. His eyes were like two sharp swords as he stared at the patriarch in fury. "If you dare, then I'll kill off all your clansmen." A furious killing intent flooded the air from Jianchen's body as he sent out his presence to find out where the members of the Jita clan were hiding. Since he now had strength equal in might to a saint ruler, a heaven saint master was like an ant to him. Jianchen's reaction startled the patriarch. He consequently scolded himself for his folly. He was filled with regret now. If only he had known that such a statement would only infuriate Jianchen, he would not have said it to begin with. If Jianchen were to strike his clansmen, then the patriarch himself would have no way of stopping him. The chaotic force of Jianchen was far too tyrannical, and even he was afraid of meeting it face to face. "Stay your hand. There is still room for negotiations," the patriarch cried out. Moving with the powers of space, the patriarch moved to stop Jianchen from advancing ahead. Jianchen's eyes were filled with anger as he swung his chaotic force-infused right hand at the patriarch, who was blocking the path in front of him. However, the patriarch dodged Jianchen's hand with ease. Flickering to just another 100 meters away from him, the patriarch shot a beam of sword chi at Jianchen in an attempt to hinder his forward progress. Jianchen completely ignored the fact that he could dodge. He struck at the beam with his fist. Boom! When the fist met the sword chi, a loud explosion could be heard as a gale of leftover energy swept about and distorting the space of the world. Jianchen continued forward with only a small injury on his right hand. Some blood could be seen trickling from it, but it healed up within a few seconds as if nothing had happened. "Jianchen, as long as you let my Jita clan go, I, Jita Tai, will lend my aid to you for any 3 tasks." The patriarch swore. As far as he was concerned, the clan was far more important than anything else. As long as the clan survived, the patriarch would not feel bad about his actions. Upon hearing this, the killing intent Jianchen was leaking began to die down a bit as he stared at the patriarch with a thoughtful look. "No, if you really wish me to cease my pursuit of killing your clan, there is only one method." "What method?" the patriarch asked. "Submit to me." Jianchen smiled. If the patriarch really was willing to submit to him, then he would have no need to bother with this situation. "Don't even think about it." The patriarch immediately lost all color in his face as anger flooded forth. He was a saint ruler. An entity that stood on top of almost everyone else. How could he possibly submit to someone of the younger generation? A frosty look appeared on Jian Chen's face. If that's how it is, our negotiations are finished. Jian Chen, let us settle our matters a different way then. The patriarch tried his best to quell his anger. Pretending to be the solemn one, the patriarch was currently trying his best to ensure that his clan didn't die. He was reluctant to be the angry one of the two. Shaking his head without hesitation, Jian Chen answered, there is only this method. Aside from that, nothing else can be considered. He paused for a moment. Submitting to me may be a little off-putting to someone like you, but it isn't too embarrassing either. I was able to reach this realm of strength at such a young age. If I am given even more time, I'll definitely step into the Saint King realm and even the legendary Saint Emperor realm. At the mention of Saint Emperor, the patriarch's body violently trembled. He looked at Jian Chen in disbelief. However, when he considered just how young Jian Chen was and how strong he was, the patriarch began to have second thoughts. The amount of people that reached the legendary zenith that was the Saint Emperor realm could be counted on one hand. It was not as if no one did, but the most important fact was that of all the people that had done so, their potential had not been as outstanding as Jian Chen's. It was extremely likely that Jian Chen would one day become a Saint Emperor. At this thought, the tension in the patriarch's heart began to dissipate. Jian Chen saw through the thoughts that the patriarch was thinking, and moved to capitalize on the moment. Looking at the long-term benefits, submitting to me would not be a bad plan. The benefits outweigh the detriments and will help elevate your clan's status. From a hermit clan, you may very well become a clan that will survive from antiquity to the future. When I become a Saint Emperor, you may very well have a good chance of becoming a Saint King with my assistance. The heart of the patriarch skipped a beat at those words, but with a level mind, he asked, just what proof do you have that you are sure you will become a high and mighty Saint Emperor? Because I am only 23 years old. Jian Chen laughed. Chapter 630, The Transformation of Little Fatty, 1, What? You're only 23. The patriarch exclaimed. While he knew that Jian Chen was young, he didn't think that Jian Chen would be that young. A saint ruler by the age of 23 was an unprecedented situation for the history of the continent. Before Jian Chen, not a single person had become a saint ruler by that age. Talent like this was like a beacon of light to all else. He was a man who stood beyond all else with no equal even in the future. The patriarch's mind furiously raced as he tried to think. When he remembered how Jian Chen had been able to fight him and the deceased patriarch Shi without fear of receiving punishment, he immediately let out a startled cry. Are you perhaps the reincarnation of the continent's strongest, Mo Tianyun? As far as the patriarch knew, only Mo Tianyun, the strongest person throughout the history of the continent, possessed talent as terrifying as Jian Chen's. Even though concise history had only been formulated after his existence. Now it was Jian Chen's turn to look astonished. He had no idea that the patriarch would actually make the assumption that he was the reincarnation of the continent's strongest person, Mo Tianyun, after finding out his true age. So have you considered it? Submit to me, work for me, and I shall wipe away the debt of the Jita clan. The potential benefits your clan may receive in the future are unlimited. If this isn't ideal, there is only one other way to continue this discussion. Jian Chen evaded the question with a smile. Still unsure, the patriarch continued to float in the air with a conflicted expression on his face. He was clearly trying to make a decision. He knew that he would be degraded to the position of that of a slave if he submitted to Jian Chen. No longer would he be able to move as he pleased. A high and mighty saint ruler of the previous generation working like an ox while the next generation worked as the rider. Such a decision was unbelievably difficult to make no matter how resplendent the next generation's genius was. For a good while, the patriarch hesitated. In the end, he decided he had no other choice but to compromise with Jian Chen for the sake of his clan's survival. It was with a grieved expression that he said, Jian Chen, you win. My Jita clan will formally submit to you. Even as he spoke, the patriarch looked as if he had aged years and years in an instant, like his life was being sucked out of him. A victorious smile appeared on Jian Chen's face as he rejoiced within his heart. He knew that from today on, he would have a saint ruler at his beck and call. Not only was that plentiful source of strength, it also served as a deterrence. You swear on your blood? Jian Chen smiled. The patriarch bit his lips hard enough to draw blood and spat it out. Quickly, he drew a mysterious but grotesque pattern with his blood in the air before it flew to Jian Chen. This blood oath was something that the patriarch had created using the three energies of his body and life. The owner of the blood oath was equivalent to the owner of his very life. Now that he had given the blood oath to Jian Chen, it also meant that his life was in Jian Chen's hands. I hope that you will be a man of your words and won't renege on it. The patriarch grimly spoke. Taking the floating blood seal in front of him, Jian Chen placed it in between his eyebrows. He allowed it to disappear into his head and into his mind space. The sword spirits slowly surrounded the blood seal that the patriarch created in his mind space. From how they surrounded it, it seemed as if the sword spirits were treating the blood oath as if it were a prisoner. Master, don't worry about this. Jian Chen heard Ziying say to him. Sighing in relief, Jian Chen watched the blood oath disappear into the sea of chaotic force. His mind space was a dangerous place to allow things in. If he wasn't careful, the patriarch's blood oath could do something to him. After he accepted the blood oath, Jian Chen felt as if there was some sort of subtle connection between him and the patriarch. It allowed him to sense which direction the patriarch was and where the patriarch was in the general area. Jian Chen was also able to feel that if he destroyed the blood oath, the patriarch of the Jetta clan would die on the spot. Knowing that he had the capability of controlling the life of a saint ruler filled with joy. This was undoubtedly a great windfall. Ah, since we are family now, how might I call you? Jian Chen smiled at the patriarch. The earlier killing intent he had been releasing was nowhere to be seen. Jetta Tai. The patriarch emotionlessly stated. Unperturbed by the patriarch's attitude, Jian Chen continued to smile. Then I'll be calling you that from now on. You may leave now to handle your clan. Meet me in Mercenary City half a month from now and we'll leave together. Jetta Tai nodded his head without a word, but his heart was undoubtedly feeling very gloomy. Jian Chen gave Jetta Tai several tasks to do. He then left the area after changing his clothes. 30 kilometers away he found the hiding Wang Yufeng, who was behind a giant stone. Jian Chen then flew away with him in tow. Chapter 631, The Transformation of Little Fatty. 2. The sky above was sunny. There was not a single cloud in sight for kilometers around. A slight breeze could be felt as golden rays of light brightly sprinkled down onto the equally golden ground below. The entire continent basked in the golden rays of sun as it warmed up. Jian Chen flew across the azure sky with Wang Yufeng at sound-breaking speeds. They were traveling fast enough that the scenery below was a blur. Jian Chen, you really are amazing to kill even a saint ruler. I wasn't able to see the fight, but the sounds alone were enough to terrify me. The earth and the heavens themselves felt as if they were threatening to fall to pieces, and even the mountains had been utterly destroyed. I had almost thought that you were going to destroy the world. Wang Yufeng spoke passionately without pause. A saint ruler is really strong after all. They're not someone any person can easily fight. Even if I came across a saint ruler, I'd be like a piece of paper to be blown away. A battle between saint rulers is something that is barely seen even once every 100 years. Laughing, Jian Chen replied, you praise me too much. How could a saint ruler be that easy to kill? The patriarch and I fought an intense battle, but we were evenly matched. Neither one of us could harm the other, so he was unable to be killed by me. That couldn't be helped, Jian Chen. You don't look all that much younger than me, but you have already become a saint ruler. Your potential is definitely limitless in the future. I, Wang Yufeng, really think that it is luck that I will be able to travel with you. I'll definitely be able to experience my own ups and downs too. Wang Yufeng happily smiled. To be able to follow a saint ruler was an undeniably joyful event to be excited for. Suddenly, Wang Yufeng thought of something and looked to Jian Chen in panic. Jian Chen, you can't throw me away, okay? I may just be a second cycle Earth Saint Master, but my potential isn't weak by any means either. I'm 35 years old this year, but I'm still considered a genius of the continent. Becoming a Heaven Saint Master is just a matter of time. Becoming a saint ruler wouldn't be out of the question either. If you are willing to join my mercenary group, I will of course never toss you away, but you must understand, following me is not going to always be a good thing. Although I am strong, the opponents I have are just as strong. They are not to be trifled with. Jian Chen responded. I don't care about that. The events of the future are unknown to me, but I, Wang Yufeng, still wish to travel with you. Wang Yufeng laughed in ardent support of following Jian Chen. Afterward, Jian Chen brought Wang Yufeng to Mercenary City and left him there to wait. After exchanging a few words with Little Spirit, he left for Longevity Valley once again. At the same time as he was leaving Mercenary City, a stalwart middle-aged man currently sat in a personal room in a first-class city in some other kingdom. Respectful sir, we've investigated the matter you wished for. Within the room, another elderly man smiled professionally at him. Say it. If your information is reliable, there will be a bountiful reward. The man spoke with bright eyes and a cold voice. As soon as he heard the words, bountiful reward, the other man's face grew serious. The wrinkles on his face tightened as he said, Respectful sir, our labyrinthine sect has made our investigations and have made a preliminary report on the actions of Jian Chen. When he was in Mercenary City, the uproar he caused there made its way to the outskirts of the city. About a month later, he arrived at a first-class city in the Tianzhu kingdom and lay waste to a strong clan. Even the city itself was harmed. It's assumed that a heaven-tier battle skill was used. The middle-aged man impatiently waved his hand. Spare me the useless facts and get to the point. I wish to know where he is. Yes, right away. The elder replied without delay. Looking as if he was thinking, he said, Since Jian Chen is a Heaven Saint Master, he can fly off to places that even we cannot track with ease. We only know that 2 days ago, he arrived back at Mercenary City with another person and then left headed to the Cross Mountains it seems. The Cross Mountains. The man's eyes lit up as he spoke. Why is he going there? Respectful sir, Jian Chen's destination might be the Cross Mountains, but we don't dare guarantee that he is going there. Whether he might alter or change his destination, we don't know, but we can guarantee that if we come across news of Jian Chen's destination, we will make sure to inform you with most haste. The elder finished his report. The man nodded his head and dropped a hefty bag of coins onto the table in front of him. This is your reward. Remember, you must follow Jian Chen and where he goes. If he heads far away from Mercenary City, tell me at once. Yes, yes. The elder quickly responded as he took the bag of coins. Opening the bag up, he allowed himself to look at the glittering coins inside with a transfixed expression. Jian Chen traveled back to Longevity Valley by himself. Now that he was done with most of his affairs, he could spend the rest of his time waiting in Longevity Valley for Little Fatty to return. He could also make use of this time to familiarize himself with the chaotic force he had recently gained. With Patriarch Shi dead, the Shi family wouldn't dare send any more Heaven Saint Masters after Jian Chen. He wouldn't even need fear them. Since he was a saint ruler in strength, his foresight had greatly expanded. No longer did he fear the entirety of the Shi family, but neither did he feel like going on a trip to destroy the family. He was instead more focused on the expansion and training of the flame mercenaries. After he returned to Longevity Valley, Jian Chen began to converse with the villagers once more. Then, he went with Uncle Xiaomi to rest for some time. That night, Jian Chen ate dinner with Xiaomi and his wife before shutting himself in his own room. From there, Jian Chen sat as still as a stone statue and began to converse with the sword spirits to learn more about the chaotic force. Master, you are truly using the chaotic force now. Its power and might are much stronger than before. When Master uses the chaotic force, Master cannot use it to attack at random. Not only does this waste the chaotic force, it weakens the power. Ziying explained to him. Does that mean I must use my fists when I fight in the future? Jian Chen asked with some vexation. Yes, Master. The chaotic force is quite tyrannical. The average weapon wouldn't be able to withstand the chaotic force if it ran through it. Without the azulate swords being forged, you must fight your enemies with your bare hands. Ziying answered. Master, you shouldn't be so worried. You just have to get enough materials to forge the azulate swords. Yin and Yang were born from chaos, and Ziying and Qingsua were evolved from this yin and yang. Ziying and Qingsua are extremely strong. As long as Master succeeds in forging the azulate swords, the swords will become extremely strong when combined with the chaotic force. From that moment on, no one in the world will be able to stop Master. Qingsua added. Qingsua's words caused Jian Chen's mind to race furiously with delightful thoughts. He was extremely impatient to forge the azulate swords, but the task of forging them left him with a feeling of annoyance. The materials to forge the swords were far too difficult to find. Who knew just how long it would take before he would be able to gather enough materials to make the swords? Master, a ruler armament would be able to sustain the power of chaotic force. Why not find a suitable ruler armament to use in the meantime? Ziying suggested. Yes, Master. A ruler armament should be strong enough to withstand the chaotic force. Until the azulate swords are made, Master can use a ruler armament as a replacement. I know that only a saint ruler at the 9th heavenly layer is capable of leaving behind a ruler armament, but if that's the case, then a saint king at the 9th heavenly layer shouldn't be too different. Master, you should find the weapon that a saint king has left behind. Those would definitely be better than a ruler armament a saint ruler made. Ziying spoke. 9th heavenly layer saint king. Jian Chen could hardly contain his pained smile. A ruler armament was already a treasure that was nearly impossible to obtain, let alone items a saint king at the 9th heavenly layer has left behind. A godly weapon like that was most likely impossible to find, but the sword spirit's suggestions hadn't been too outlandish. Whether or not he could one was up to luck. Ziying, Qingsua, a saint ruler can harness the power of space by understanding the profound mysteries of the world. Even if I'm able to use the chaotic force, I'm unable to harm them. Would you two have any ideas on how I can change that? Chapter 632, The Transformation of Little Fatty. 3. Master, the chaotic force can destroy the world if there's enough. Your proficiency with the chaotic force can be considered subpar, but even now it's not something that a saint ruler could survive against. Unless Master gets to a higher level of proficiency with the chaotic force or perhaps forges the azulate swords, dealing with a saint ruler that can use the powers of space will be impossible. Ziying spoke. Jian Chen's eyebrows furrowed together. In other words, I have no ways of dealing with a saint ruler that can use the power of space. That may not be the case. Master, you've forgotten that movement skill you have, the illusionary flash. That movement skill embodies the laws of space. If Master were to comprehend it, then you will be able to understand the laws of space to some degree. Once that happens, even a saint ruler can be dealt with. Qingsua explained. Wouldn't that mean to say that I'll break through to become a saint ruler? Jian Chen suggested. Although he was a saint ruler in strength, he was not one in status or actual power. The powers a saint ruler wielded were not things he could do. This time, Ziying and Qingsua hesitated to answer for a moment. It was finally Qingsua who said, Master, our analysis of a saint ruler suggests that their understanding of the laws of space is far more comprehensive. The illusionary flash focuses purely on speed and disregards the other aspects of space. Saint rulers are using what is perhaps the power of the world itself, and that barrier they often use is likely a construct of the world's power given a form. Qingsua is correct. Master, according to what we know of the illusionary flash, it should be able to elevate your speed based on the principles of the laws of space and nothing else, but even that will be enough to deal with a saint ruler. Ziying spoke. Jianchen pondered what they said for a few minutes before finally saying, "It seems that I just have to try and comprehend the illusionary flash." With a momentary pause, Jianchen continued, "Ziying, Qingsua, I've already reached the minor achievement realm with the chaotic body. How much further away is the major achievement realm? If I reach that realm, would I be comparable in strength to a saint emperor? Which one of the two would be stronger?" Ziying and Qingsua both let out a peal of laughter in response to Jianchen. "Master, you belittle the chaotic body far too much. You are only at the entrance of the chaotic body, and the path ahead of Master is a long one. There is no doubt that the major achievement realm would be vastly superior to a saint emperor. Master, the realms to the chaotic body aren't that clearly divided. There are far too few people that cultivate the chaotic body. They could possibly be counted on 10 fingers of 2 hands. Furthermore, there has been no one that has ever reached the major achievement, but for the sake of fully explaining the chaotic body to Master, we shall divide it up into 8 different parts. As of now, Master, you are only at the first layer," Ziying explained. Jianchen was surprised to hear that. The very first layer of the chaotic body was enough to match a saint ruler. That would mean that once he reached the highest level of the chaotic body, his strength would be at an unbelievably frightening level. This thought filled Jianchen with no small amount of joy. Afterward, Ziying and Qingsua both began to explain many of the more important points of the chaotic body to Jianchen. No longer would Jianchen be as ignorant of the chaotic body as he'd been, only knowing that the chaotic body was strong and nothing else. Jianchen spent the following days in Longevity Valley. During the day, he would go to the forest and practice the illusionary flash. At night, he would stay within his room and try to comprehend the secrets of the illusionary flash. He hoped that he would one day make a breakthrough and become proficient enough to fight a saint ruler. The tiger cub hadn't stopped either. Day after day, it would eat and digest the heavenly resources that Jianchen had been given from the Grand Elder of Mercenary City to increase its strength. Afterward, it would lay on the bed and sleep off the food. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen had stayed in Longevity Valley for an entire month. During this 1 month, he had made a good deal of progress in his studies of the illusionary flash. Although he wasn't at a level of mastery where he could deal with a saint ruler, he had still reached a far greater level of mastery. Over the span of this 1 month, the tiger cub had made a breakthrough to become a Class 5 magical beast with the help of the heavenly resources. The elevation in its power also caused the tiger cub's outer appearance to undergo a transformation as well. It could still freely control the size of its body, and it remained its previous small size with its adorable cat-like appearance. Its pure eyes were still filled with a bright light that seemed to have a life of their own. In addition, the wings on its back had grown even more, making the tiger look even softer than before. A touch of the cub felt warm and pleasant. Hidden within the forests behind Longevity Valley, a white blur traveled at great speeds through. The speed of this figure was so great that it seemed as if its body was just a mirror image that had been blended with one another, making it hard to discern the outline of the body. It was almost as if this person was one with the world, body moving without generating any wind, traveling swiftly and silently, like a ghost. At that moment, the blurry mirror images suddenly came to a stop. As soon as the figure came to a stop, a young 20-something-year-old man wearing coarse clothes could be seen. It was Jianchen. With his eyebrows perked, Jianchen turned his hand to reveal an object. In it was a single piece of white jade that had silently cracked in two. When Jianchen saw that the jade had split into 2 white halves, his face grew serious. Turning his hand, he ground up the remaining pieces of jade into dust, and let them fly into the air. With the dust gone, Jianchen turned around and disappeared from the forest with such speed that it was hard to discern where he was headed. After returning to Longevity Valley, he went back to the room where the tiger cub was sleeping. After leaving the house, he headed straight to the field where Uncle Xiaomi was working. As soon as he took several steps toward the field, the expression on Jian Chen's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly turned his head to the entrance of the valley. He could see a white blur traveling toward him from far away. Despite the distance, Jian Chen's eyes could clearly make out the blur. It was the distinct figure of a young man, an elderly man traveling through the air. "Hey! Jian Chen, I'm back. You're here in the valley too. That's great." A loud voice called out from the air with great excitement. His voice was so loud that the entire valley heard it, giving everyone an idea of just who had returned. "That's little Fatty, he's back." A middle-aged farmer cried out before tossing down his hoe to run with the others toward the village entrance. "That's little Fatty's voice. The village elder has to be back too." From the fields, another middle-aged woman paused her actions to look into the air. When she saw two figures slowly descend from the sky overhead, a slightly reverent but admiring expression appeared on her face. The figures in the sky slowly came to a stop on the ground in front of Jian Chen. Of the two, one was Elder Xiao and the other was a young stalwart youth right next to him. The youth was filled with a boastful aura, but Jian Chen could barely make out the hint of a bloody scent on him. This was the appearance of a young man who had experienced a path of massacre, a trial by fire, and a near-death experience. Staring at the young man in confusion, Jian Chen could hardly believe his eyes. The young person in front of him was really the little Fatty he knew from before. The difference between him now and before was simply far too astonishing. It was practically impossible to recognize it was the same person. Chapter 633, Is That Really You? You're really little Fatty. Stunned at the sight of the person in front of him, Jian Chen couldn't believe his eyes that this well-built person was the very same person he knew before. Are you really little Fatty? Even Xiaomi was having second thoughts. With his hoe hefted on his shoulder, Xiaomi stood there in stunned disbelief. Was this really his own son? The little Fatty of today was drastically different to the little Fatty of before. Not only was his aura different, even his appearance and build had changed. Not a bit of fatty meat could be seen on him. He was extremely skinny compared to before. He wasn't as straightforward looking anymore. He had gained a feeling of being a highly capable person. "Father, how did you change little Fatty so much?" Xiaomi smiled to Elder Xiao. "Little Fatty, you've become so skinny. You must have suffered terribly outside." Little Fatty's mother wailed in despair before rushing out from the house to meet him. "Wow. Little Fatty, you've changed so much I barely recognized you. Are you really little Fatty? You seem more like a stranger." The people from the village who were barely older or younger than little Fatty muttered to each other in disbelief. Not a single one of them could believe their eyes at his transformation. Little Fatty scratched his head with slight embarrassment when he saw just how shocked everyone was. With a chuckle, he said, "Even I don't know what happened, but I've changed a lot over the past few months. Please don't worry everyone, I'm still the same little Fatty from before." Looking to Jian Chen, he apologetically said, "Jian Chen, I'm really sorry. A year ago, Grandpa took me to train so we had to delay our meeting. Sorry for keeping you waiting." Jian Chen smiled in return, "No worries. I've only just arrived myself." "Little Fatty, congratulations on becoming an Earth Saint Master. You are now one of the stronger people of the continent." "Jian Chen, I've finally become an Earth Saint Master." Little Fatty laughed. "Grandpa will finally let me travel the outside world with you. When can we set off?" Little Fatty ended impatiently. Thinking about how to answer the question, he finally responded, "The sooner the better. I have something to do back home, so we need to hurry back." "Jian Chen, why not leave tomorrow? Little Fatty and his grandfather must have gone through a lot in their travels. Let them rest well for tonight." Little Fatty's mother reluctantly suggested. Then let us go with Auntie's suggestion." Jian Chen nodded. Little Fatty's sudden return delayed Jian Chen's trip back home by one more day. The next morning, everyone in the village gathered to send off Jian Chen and Little Fatty. They both left the valley after one final farewell. The villagers didn't go beyond the village entrance. Instead, they watched the two leave from afar. Some of the villagers revealed envious looks. AI. The plain-robed elder Xiao heaved a heavy sigh to the sky. I didn't wish for little Fatty to be entangled with the matters of the outside world. I wanted him to live a life of peace here, but Jian Chen's sudden arrival brought him dreams of traveling. Whether this is a blessing or curse, I'm not sure. Father, we should be approving of little Fatty's wish to travel the outside world. Little Fatty will become wiser with this trip. Remaining in the village will only stifle little Fatty's talent, and only with this journey will little Fatty's true potential will be drawn out. Perhaps little Fatty will one day become strong enough to set down a basis of strength to replace even you, Father. Xiaomi spoke. Elder Xiao shook his head, no. I won't hand over my responsibilities to little Fatty. This is only a cumbersome burden, and no matter how talented little Fatty is, he is unsuited for this responsibility. Why, Father? It can't be a matter of strength. Xiaomi protested. Elder Xiao sighed with a bit of a pained groan. Your mother died because of the Bloodsword sect. Before her passing, she made me swear to not interfere with the continent. So from then on, I sought a quiet place to hide away, like the rest of the hermit clans. A place to live out the rest of my life in peace. No matter how strong a person's cultivation becomes, they will still end up as skeletons. Nothing but a false name is left after that. Your mother was wise to say that an unordinary but peaceful life isn't a bad one. One shouldn't try to be so concerned about leaving a mark on the mortal world. Instead, they should try to live a life without worry. Elder Xiao sighed. Father, how do you plan to deal with the Bloodsword sect then? Xiaomi asked. Elder Xiao grew silent for a moment. I can tell that Jian Chen isn't a bad choice. He's outstanding in almost every aspect, and his potential is quite terrifying to say the least. If he's able to become a Heaven Saint Master at that young age, then I can say that he won't be inferior to me in the future. Flying over the mountains, Jian Chen carried little Fatty through the sky, quickly bypassing the cross mountains. The tiger cub on Jian Chen's shoulder had already long since woken up. It glanced around with great bright eyes. Suddenly, the cub let out an excited cry as it unfolded its wings. Leaping off of Jian Chen's shoulder, it disappeared into the verdant forests down below. Not even a moment later, it came flying back to Jian Chen's shoulder with a fruit in its mouth. Jian Chen was rather startled by what the cub did, but he laughed in the end. I had thought that your wings were just for decoration, but it seems that flight with them is possible. That's a first. Little Fatty looked at the tiger cub on Jian Chen's shoulder. Jian Chen, I can tell that this cub is very strong. Is it a Class 5 magical beast already? Correct. It became a Class 5 magical beast cub several days ago. Little Fatty, I recall that you've never seen a high-class magical beast before. How were you able to tell the cub's strength? Jian Chen asked curiously. Little Fatty laughed. At one point Grandpa took me to some strange place where I had to kill all sorts of magical beasts time after time. I'm familiar with a Class 5 magical beast now, so it's only natural that I know how strong it is. At that moment, Jian Chen's face grew grim and his body came to a sudden halt in the middle of the air. His face also darkened for some strange reason. The reason for this strange occurrence was because his blood had suddenly started to bubble as if it was boiling water. This abnormality quickly spread throughout his body, causing his body temperature to increase. Jian Chen, what's wrong? Little Fatty was at a loss of words. He had no idea why Jian Chen was acting this way. Jian Chen did not respond since even he didn't know what was going on with his body. It was the first time he had experienced such a sensation. Could there be a problem with the chaotic body? Jian Chen thought, but even as he finished that thought, the two sword spirits immediately answered him. Master, the blood within your body has the antivenom factor from the golden-striped silver snake. This is a reaction caused by that antivenom. Since the golden-striped silver snake is a rare being, the two sides definitely have an attraction to one another. There has to be one of those snakes nearby. Presumably a strong one, Class 7 magical beast at a guess. Ziying spoke. A change overcame Jian Chen's face, but he did not say a second word about it as he immediately left the area. A golden-striped silver snake was extremely strong. It was also hard to come by. He had little fatty with him, so Jian Chen didn't wish for some sort of conflict to happen. Quickly leaving the Cross Mountains, Jian Chen headed straight for Mercenary City without pause. After 2 days, they finally arrived. As soon as he entered the city, Jian Chen headed straight to the inn where Wang Yufeng and Patriarch Jetta were residing. Exchanging several words with Wang Yufeng, he introduced everyone to one another. However, he did not divulge Jetta Tai's identity and gave a careless introduction when it was his turn. After the introductions were made, Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty became quick friends. Soon enough, they were laughing and chatting with one another as if they had always been friends. Jian Chen took Jetta Tai to another room to talk. After giving several heavenly resources to the tiger cub to let it fall asleep, he said to Jetta Tai, "Come with me to the Cross Mountains." "What? The Cross Mountains?" Jetta Tai cried out loud with great fear. Refusing Jian Chen, he said, "Out of the question. That is a forbidden zone to even the strongest of the continent. One couldn't go there unless one was a Saint King." Knowing that Jetta Tai was afraid, Jian Chen explained, "Rest assured, we won't be going deep inside, it'll only be the outside perimeter. I know the dangers of the mountains, so we won't be going to our deaths." Knowing that they wouldn't be going to the depths of the mountains, Jetta Tai sighed in relief. "As long as we don't go too deep in and don't cause too much trouble, that's fine. But what in the world are you going there for? There's no time to waste. Come with me for now. You'll understand when we get there." Jian Chen placed the sleeping cub on the bed and turned around to leave the room with Jetta Tai right behind him. After leaving the room, Jian Chen mentioned to Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty that he and Jetta Tai would be leaving Mercenary City. After that, they rushed to the Cross Mountains. Chapter 634, Meeting another golden-striped silver snake 2 days later in the vast sky above the Cross Mountains, two figures could be seen streaking by at sound-breaking speed. They came to a stop at a nearby mountain peak. "It should be near here." As his robes flapped around due to the rapid winds, Jian Chen spoke in a serious voice while his eyes scanned the ground with rapt attention. Jetta Tai was wearing a white robe as he floated right next to Jian Chen. An elegant aura pervaded his body as his bright-spirited eyes looked all around. "Jian Chen, what are you planning on doing here, killing a strong magical beast?" "There's a rather strong golden-striped silver snake nearby. I wish to see if we can make it submit." Jian Chen softly replied. At the mention of a golden-striped silver snake, Jetta Tai's expression froze with shock. A golden-striped silver snake is considered a part of the royal family of snakes. They're a rare breed even on the continent, and even in the historical past, they were said to be extremely strong in battle. Their venom is said to be extremely toxic, perhaps one of the top 3 most venomous. Dealing with one is no simple task, let alone trying to make it submit. Unless you find one in its childhood, it'll be unwilling to submit to you thanks to its sentient nature. Jian Chen was more than aware of the logic that Jetta Tai spoke, but he nodded his head after some thought anyways. A golden-striped silver snake is far too rare on the continent. Whether we'll be able to make one submit is up in the air still. "Jetta Tai, you stay here and keep guard. I'll find its nest and call out to you if I require help. Don't be reckless. The venom of a golden-striped silver snake is extremely potent. Not a single antidote in this world would be able to cure it. You might have a strong body, but you haven't even grasped the powers of space. If you met a Class 6 magical beast, there's no way you'll be able to deal with the venom it spits out. If that venom hits you, that'll be trouble." Jetta Tai spoke in a grim manner. Although he was extremely displeased with becoming a lackey for Jian Chen, Jie Tai was a far-sighted person. He knew that Jian Chen's talent was absolutely terrifying, and if he continued to follow him, there would perhaps be exceptional rewards for him in the end. It was unclear if Jian Chen would break through to become a Saint King as he said before, but if he did, then Jie Tai would have managed to secure a strong patron for his clan. It wouldn't hurt to try. I've a way to protect myself from its venom after all. Jian Chen carelessly replied. Since he had managed to form the 1,000 immunity long ago, his chaotic body naturally benefited from its strong anti-venom property. Jian Chen left Jie Tai to stand guard while he went off by himself to look for the lair of the golden-striped silver snake. Jian Chen could also use his presence and bubbling sensation of his blood to search the surrounding 10 kilometers for the snake. Soon enough, he finally ended up at a mountain ridge 10 kilometers away. With his presence surrounding the entire area, Jian Chen found a hidden hole. His presence infiltrated the depths of the cave, but he didn't discover any signs of the snake inside. It's without a doubt worthy of being a Class 7 magical beast. Jian Chen muttered. His figure dropped down from the sky to reach the cave. He slammed the stone hiding the hole into pieces before striding in. The depths of the cave were extensive with plenty of curving passageways. The interior was also very dark, one wouldn't even be able to see their own hands in front of their faces. However, it bore no problems to Jian Chen, who could see clearly in the cave as if it were day. Following the passageway for 100 meters, Jian Chen finally arrived in a 1,000-meter-wide cave. The walls of the cave were scattered with fist-sized night pearls. They lit the cave with a soft white light, giving it the feeling of nighttime. At the center of the cave was a 2-meter-tall stone altar, and wrapped around that altar was a 2-meter-long snake. A strand of gold and silver streaked across its finger-width back, and its thumb-sized snake head was raised high into the air, cautiously staring at the unexpected guest. Jian Chen smiled at the gold snake. He knew that despite its small size, it was not to be underestimated. Clasping his hands together in greeting, he said, "This one is Jian Chen. I came here today to visit. If I offended you with my visit, I hope you won't take offense. Human, you are a brave one to dare intrude on my home. Do you wish to die?" The golden snake lifted its mouth open just slightly to hiss out several words in the human tongue. Its voice echoed around the cave, but the sharp tone made it difficult for Jian Chen to determine if it was male or female. Almost as if he was completely unfazed by the snake's threat, Jian Chen continued to smile. "This one came here to visit your distinguished self for a specific reason. I have an item that I wish to offer you. An item I'm sure would provide no small amount of help to you." The snake's eyes flickered slightly as it said, "I can sense the smell of my kin on your body. You've used the blood of my kin to create the 1,000 immunity." "Correct. I came across a young golden-striped silver snake once before in the magical beast mountain range. After a great battle, I was able to obtain its body and use its lifeblood to forge the 1,000 immunity. Its body has been left in my possession ever since, left in perfect condition and without use." Jian Chen took out the clean carcass of the snake from his space ring. Since there was no air in space rings, items could be stored indefinitely in them. Thus, Jian Chen had been able to keep the corpse in his ring without it ever decaying, keeping it as fresh as the day he killed it. As soon as the golden-striped silver snake saw the carcass of its own kin in Jian Chen's hand, its eyes immediately revealed a bright gleam. There was a flash of gold as its body sprung toward Jian Chen's. It snapped its jaws to try and take away the carcass. Smiling, Jian Chen used the illusionary flash to travel several meters away to dodge the surprise attack of the snake. With a shake of his hand, the carcass of the dead snake was returned to his space ring. Hiss! The snake's tongue flicked from its mouth as its entire body disappeared once more in a flash of gold. It shot toward Jian Chen again. Its mouth opened wide to show off its sharp teeth as if to tear away Jian Chen's throat. Allowing the chaotic force to cover his body with a single thought, Jian Chen made use of the defensive might of the chaotic body to form a fist with his hand. He then punched the snake head-on. Bang! There a muffled sound appeared when the fist connected with the snake. The entire cave shook unsteadily from the power, but Jian Chen's fist remained unharmed. The snake, on the other hand, was sent flying away. It smashed against the wall behind it, leaving behind a giant crater. After this single exchange, the golden-striped silver snake realized that Jian Chen would not be as easy to deal with as it initially thought. Floating into the air without a problem, the snake glared at Jian Chen with venomous eyes. You might not be weak, but you are still no match for me. Hand over the body of my kin to me, or face death. Jian Chen tried to shake the numb feeling in his right arm. He was slightly shocked at the defensive might the snake boasted. This one came here specifically to visit your distinguished self with a gift, but there's no such thing as a free meal. I cannot give the item to you so freely. Then what is it that you wish to take from me? The snake questioned. I want you to follow me for 10 years. I'll give you the item after that period of time. Jian Chen answered. A malevolent glare entered the snake's eyes as killing intent began to leak from its body. With a furious laugh, it hissed, Human, you are far too naive. Do you really think the high and mighty newbies would follow you for 10 years? Even a saint king has no right to ask, let alone you. Jian Chen laughed in return. I presume you know, far more than I do, that the carcass of your own kin is extremely important to you. A golden-striped silver snake is a beast of antiquity. Even its body is filled with strange oddities. What separates one from any other regular magical beast is that it can devour its own kin to evolve. Not only does your strength increase, even your fighting strength is elevated. It's unfortunate that golden-striped silver snakes are extremely rare on the continent. Meeting one is already hard enough. I'd say this puts an end to your hopes of devouring another one of your kin to increase your strength. So, the carcass that I hold should be an unbelievable chance for you. Although it was a Class 3 magical beast when I killed it, it should still be a benefit to you. I will give it to you in exchange for 10 years of your time. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Human, you speak correctly. Devouring my own kin allows us to grow due to the hidden essence that only we golden-striped silver snakes can process. As long as that is absorbed, this origin essence grants us a great boon. To absorb enough of that origin essence is to allow us to evolve into a divine beast from legends. What you might not know, human, is that I can easily take the skin from your dead corpse once I kill you. As it finished speaking, the snake's body began to go through a series of permutations in the air. In a flash, it became a young man with a rather skinny build. He wore a golden robe, and possessed golden irises. His hair was also long and golden, giving him the look of an handsome male. From his appearance, the male looked no older than Jian Chen. Do you really think you can kill me? Jian Chen replied as he stood his ground. Chapter 635. The Great Newbies. Jian Chen's words were clearly meant to provoke the golden-striped silver snake, a snake that held a mighty position as royalty of all snakes. The golden eyes of the snake in human form gleamed scarlet for a single second as killing intent exploded from its body. Coldly, the man said, Human, if you have such confidence in yourself, allow the Great Newbies to see just how strong you are. And with those words, a golden flash was seen as the man flew forward. Following his charge was a bright silver light as if a goddess had illuminated the area with a flowery glow. With the speed of lightning, the male shot toward Jian Chen. Before Jian Chen could dodge, Jian Chen was covered with strands of silver that began to weave around his body. In the blink of an eye, he was completely cocooned in the silver strands as if he were a silkworm. As soon the strands wrapped themselves around Jian Chen, they began to tighten around his body. Each strand was like a silvery steel as it covered every inch of Jian Chen's body. They were all as sharp as the edge of a blade. With Jian Chen nestled inside, he felt countless of blades cutting deep into his body, and if not for his chaotic body and its defenses, he would have been reduced to minced meat long ago. The chaotic force circulated around Jian Chen's body, protecting every inch of him. He let out a sudden grunt and shook his body, causing the silver strands to be shaken off his body in a way into the air. Looking to the golden-striped silver snake, Jianchen said, "It seems that the famed golden-striped silver snake only amounts to this much. Show your full strength or suffer defeat at my hands." Jianchen used the illusionary flash to immediately charge at the youth with an outstretched fist. "The strength of your body is astonishing to even me. Are you truly a human?" The male spoke with surprise. His eyes were leveled calmly at the fist coming at him. He received it with a powerful fist of his own. Boom! When the two fists clashed, a powerful explosion rocked the cave as a wave of energy burst away from the impact zone. The entire cave shook to its foundations as stones fell one by one from the ceiling. In every corner of the cave, several fractures could be seen starting to spread. The golden-robed youth was sent flying from the punch before impacting against the cave wall behind him. Another crater was formed upon impact and the youth's body sank deep into the wall. Despite the young man being a transformed state of the golden-striped silver snake, it still boasted a powerful defense and equally powerful strength. Even that wasn't enough to contend with the strength of the chaotic body that Jianchen used. As the young golden-robed man walked out of the crater, it looked a little worse for wear. However, there were no inherent injuries to his body, and his face was several shades more serious. He no longer showed that previous disdain for Jianchen. Instead, he stared at his slightly shaking right arm in shock. This time, it had been the snake that had eaten up a loss. "No wonder you are known as a beast of antiquity. Your body is so strong that my fist didn't break your arm." Jianchen laughed. He was rather surprised to experience the strength of a Class 7 magical beast. Compared to a saint ruler, the contrast in strength was far too much. "Your flesh is enough to stop even mine." "But how? Humans shouldn't possess strength like that. Are you a half-breed? Or a war god from the ancient Bai clans?" The snake questioned. No longer was there as much confidence in his voice. "What war god from the ancient Bai clans? I have no idea what you're talking about. I am a genuine human." Jianchen laughed. "Impossible. How could a human possess a body like that? It's stronger than even the flesh of a magical beast." The snake snapped unconfidently. Quirking his lips, Jianchen replied, "How about it then? Why don't you think over my previous suggestion? Follow me for 10 years and I'll give you the carcass of your kin. That's the only way you'll be getting it since you have no way of killing me." The snake's face grew darker and darker the more it listened to Jianchen. "Wishing for the great newbies to follow you for 10 years is no easy task. The battle has only started. Even if your body is strong, I still have plenty ways of harming or disposing of you. Is that right? Then please allow this one to experience your guidance." Jianchen laughed. Using the illusionary flash to get close to the snake, Jianchen brought forth a tremendous amount of chaotic force into his fist and slammed it onto the male's chest. Following the wake of his fist was a series of ripples in space itself, showing just how strong the punch was. After experiencing a loss the last exchange, the snake knew just how troublesome Jianchen's fist was. He no longer wished to take it head-on. Using the powers of space to travel behind Jianchen, a flash of golden scales could be seen covering the male's right fist. Forming a claw with it, the snake flashed forward to grab Jianchen's back. PFT. As soon as the sharp claws of the male's hand made contact with Jianchen's chaotic body, they were stopped. The tips were unable to penetrate Jianchen's skin. It was almost like there was some sort of energy blocking them, causing the male to be unable to move any further. A brilliant gleam entered Jianchen's eyes as he swallowed another burst of chaotic force from his dantian. A burst of energy flew forth from his body as wildly as a rampaging horse. He moved his hand to slam the 5 fingertips of the male whose claw was touching him. The male trembled briefly before he took back his claw hand with lightning-quick speed. There was a slight aching pain from his fingertips, causing the male to feel alarmed. He knew that this feeling meant his finger bones had been broken. What power is this? How is he so strong? Perhaps he really is a war god from the ancient Bai clans? Aside from the war gods, no other human could possibly have such strength or power. The snake thought to himself, completely befuddled. Unwilling to give the golden-robed male any more time to think, Jian Chen flew forward. His fist moved through the air to deliver yet another stunning strike. However, the male used the powers of space to escape 10 meters away, gain some room, but his actions had been predicted by Jian Chen. He used the illusionary flash to arrive in front of the male with his fist still traveling unimpeded. A crimson light entered the golden irises of the male. Unable to dodge, its only option left was to take the blow. With his arms an equal distance apart, the energy of the world began to gather in between the open space of his hands. Strand by strand, a mysterious power began to gather from the surrounding world into the center of his hands. He then pushed the mysterious power toward Jian Chen's incoming fist. Chapter 636. The penultimate compromise. The golden-robed youngster's worldly energy-filled fist clashed with Jian Chen's chaotic force-filled fist, but not a sound could be heard. Instead, a tremendous wave of energy splashed out and ravaged the area. The cave itself collapsed, reduced to rubble. With the cave falling apart, pieces of the mountain came crashing down from the ceiling. With dust and stone everywhere, the visibility was reduced to nothing. There were practically no footholds for the two combatants to stand, leaving them with no other choice but to fly. Holes, that traveled so deep they disappeared into an abyss, littered the area because of the destruction they caused. The night pearls that had adorned the walls of the cave had long since been reduced to dust, leaving the area in perpetual darkness. A faint cyan glow surrounded Jian Chen's body, a sign of the wind element being used. The wind allowed his body to fly up into the air. At the same time, the origin energy of the sword spirits manifested in his hand. It formed a 20-meter-long spirit sword that he used to cut apart the remnants of the cave's ceiling to get a clear view of the sky. Similarly, there was golden glow around the other male. Turning back into a 2-meter-long golden snake, it flashed into the air in a golden blur, and broke straight through the cave's ceiling to reach the open sky above. After freeing himself, he turned back into his human form. In just a few seconds, Jian Chen and the golden-robed male had gone from a fight in the cave to a fight in the sky outside. Far below them, the previously giant mountain sank down into itself. The forest was ravaged several dozen kilometers around the cave as if doomsday had struck. A white figure watched the spectacle in the sky from far away. This figure was Wuxia Tai, the patriarch of the Jita clan. Even his interest was piqued by what was happening. That golden-robed youth has the aura of a magical beast to him. Perhaps it's a Class 7 magical beast that can take human form? If it's a Class 7 magical beast, could it possibly be the golden-striped silver snake? The patriarch wondered aloud to himself, full of curiosity. The golden-striped silver snake was an extremely rare beast on the continent, and the patriarch had only heard about them even though he had lived a long time. He had never seen one in real life until today, and it was a Class 7 one too. If it's a Class 7 magical beast, then a saint ruler could use the powers of space to avoid the venom it spits out, but even against a Class 7 golden-striped silver snake, that would no advantage at all. The snake is still a strong one even without its venom. Is Jian Chen even capable of fighting one? Jita Tai muttered with furrowed eyebrows. A Class 7 golden-striped silver snake was something that gave him a tremendous headache. When he thought about how immense Jian Chen's bodily strength was, the patriarch felt a little relieved. But Jian Chen himself is a unique person as well. His defenses are an absolute abnormality, and even my strongest blows were unable to leave lasting injuries. I can see that this golden-striped silver snake has reached the 6th heavenly layer. It will be hard for it to hurt Jian Chen, but still, stories of meeting a Class 7 golden-striped silver snake would be taken as the ravings of a madman. Countless of kilometers away, Jian Chen and the golden-robed man stood an equal 100 meters away from one another in the sky. Jian Chen had a very calm look on his face. The other male was staring at Jian Chen with a rather grim but concentrated look. This Jian Chen in front of him was a hard enemy to fight. Although the snake himself was a very strong creature with equally strong defenses, he found it very difficult to strike down this foe to take the carcass of his dead kin. What gave him the biggest headache was the fact that Jian Chen had managed to gain the 1000 immunity, making him immune to even his venom. A Class 7 magical beast was far stronger than a Class 3 magical beast, but the venom was still unable to harm Jian Chen. You should understand by now that you cannot kill me nor can you steal away what I own. The only way to earn it is by following me for 10 years. 10 years is nothing to a being like you. It's an infinitesimally small loss with extremely huge returns. Take your time to consider it. Jian Chen goaded. Growing silent, the golden-robed man stared ahead with bright eyes that gave no hints to what he was thinking. After waiting for some time, Jian Chen said, I have very little time to waste around here. I'll give you a few more moments to think. If you're still unwilling, I'll be taking my leave with this item, taking away your only chance of earning this treasure. If I step back into the human world, you'll be hard-pressed to find me. The fists of the golden-robed man clenched as hints of scarlet entered his eyes. Just faintly, a strong urge to kill could be felt radiating from him. Sensing the killing intent of the snake, Jian Chen sneered, I know that your true strength isn't just this, but you've experienced how strong my body is firsthand. You cannot kill me. You cannot wound me. If I wish to leave, you have no way of stopping me, and to reinforce the matter, I've another strong companion nearby. Human, I am a being of the magical beasts. Would my travels with you in the human world not cause you to fear the troubles that accompany me? The male spat. Shaking his head, Jian Chen replied, there are plenty of magical beasts living in the human world, many of them are strong. I know there is a treaty between the strongest of the human world with your magical beast clans, but this only applies to those of the Gilligan clan. You aren't of the Gilligan clan, so there would be no trouble for you to travel in the human world. You know quite a bit of information, but how did you come to know that I'm not of the Gilligan clan? The male asked. Smiling, Jian Chen replied, the strongest that humanity has to offer has prohibited Class 7 magical beasts of the Gilligan clan from stepping beyond the Cross Mountains. You're a Class 7 magical beast, yet you live so close to the exterior of the mountain range. Furthermore, you fought with me without worrying about humans coming after you. I could tell from that you're not of the Gilligan clan. To ignore these hints would mean I, Jian Chen, am an ignorant fellow. You speak correct. I am not of the Gilligan clan. At the mention of that clan, the golden-robed man had a look of disdain enter his eyes. The Gilligan clan is nothing more than a chess piece placed on the Tian Yuan continent from the Divine Beast continent. How could I, the great newbies, be a chess piece for another? The male pridefully stuck out his chest. Jian Chen refrained from smiling when he heard how the snake referred to itself. The snake in front of him was clearly a prideful one. Similar to the aristocratic sons of nobility, but instead of being proud of being rich, the snake was prideful of its strength and its heritage as a beast of antiquity. We've already gone past the time limit. What is your decision? The snake grew silent. He was an inherently prideful being. He felt it beneath his station to work as an attendant to another, but he desperately coveted the dead corpse of his own kin. He knew that if he could absorb the origin essence, he would be able to grow much stronger, which made it difficult to give up on the idea. Very well, human. You win. I, the great newbies, will travel with you for 10 years. Once those 10 years are up, we will have nothing to do with one another. The male compromised. Since the carcass of his dead kin was far too important, he would not refuse the offer. Good, that's settled then. Jian Chen smiled happily. A Class 7 magical beast as a new entree to his ranks would tremendously increase the strength of the flame mercenaries. Even the sect of Dragon and Tiger would be completely intimidated by one. Let us make one thing clear first. In our 10 years together, I will not do any heartless tasks or anything that I am not willing to do. The male spoke. Jian Chen nodded his head after thinking for a moment. No problem. I can promise you that, but in return, you will not stand by the sidelines if there is any trouble that comes our way. Deal. The snake felt that this deal was a good one. He agreed with Jian Chen as a result. A smile reached Jian Chen's face at that. Although the snake would only follow him for 10 years, 10 years was far more than enough for him to finish what he needed to do. Jian Chen took out the corpse of the golden-striped silver snake he had killed years ago from his space ring and threw it to the other male. This is yours. As the corpse floated over to the male's sharp eyes stared at it with excitement. Turning to look at Jian Chen, he asked, "You have that much faith in me? Are you not afraid that I would renege on the deal? You're of the royal family of the snakes with pride beyond all else. Your word would be equivalent to the 9 sacred tripods. I am of the belief you are a being of your word." A great big smile appeared on the male's face. I am fond of these words. I, the great newbies, am not a being that speaks empty promises. Worry not, when I say 10 years, I mean 10 years and not a day less. Chapter 637, Epiphany. Laughing, Jian Chen smiled. I'm Jian Chen. You can call me by that name from now on. Your name is Newbies, I take it. I'll be calling you that from now on as well. The completion of his mission made Jian Chen extremely happy. After exchanging several happy words with Newbies, the two enemies became a group that would later be fighting shoulder to shoulder in battle. Jian Chen and Newbies flew toward Jetta Tai, who was waiting for them several kilometers away in the air. When Jian Chen saw the astounded look on the patriarch's face, he couldn't help but give a wry grin. From now on we are all part of a family. Allow me to introduce everyone then. This is the Class 7 golden-striped silver snake, Newbies. This is a saint ruler, Jetta Tai. The great Newbies. The male corrected Jian Chen in dissatisfaction. It is an honor to meet you, the great Newbies. Up against a golden-striped silver snake, Jetta Tai did not desire to be negligent of his manners. He made sure to cup his hands in respect. While he was calm on the outside, his mind was in disarray. In truth, he found it hard to believe that Jian Chen had managed to make a foe like the golden-striped silver snake submit to him, especially since a Class 7 magical beast was by no means easy to fight. Attentively, Newbies stared at Jetta Tai for a moment before haughtily saying, "Third heavenly layer, your strength is just barely adequate." A series of color changes washed over Jetta Tai's face at those words. He was angered by the words of Newbies, and if it were a human saint ruler that had said them, then he would have immediately become hostile. However, just thinking about how different a golden-striped silver snake was, he had no other choice but to quash his anger down enough for it to not show on his face. He didn't have the 1000 immunity, which could negate the snake's venom, like Jian Chen did. The venom from a Class 7 magical beast was far more than what Jetta Tai could take. The great Newbies, sire, this one will be a comrade in arms in the upcoming times with you. I hope that you and him will be able to get along and avoid any conflict. Jian Chen spoke. He felt rather unhappy at the contemptuous words Newbies said when he spoke to Jetta Tai. Although Jetta Tai was his lackey now, he was still a saint ruler that brokered far too much power and dignity to be ridiculed. Very well then. Newbies shrugged his shoulders. He was a being that was inherently proud, so it was only when Jian Chen asked that he would bother trying to tone it down. Jetta Tai felt slightly relieved when Jian Chen spoke. A simple phrase caused Jetta Tai to look at Jian Chen in a slightly better light. Now he was a little more accepting of his lowly status. Afterward, the three of them didn't bother to stay in the area much longer. They flew toward Mercenary City. Not too long after the three left, a purple-robed elder appeared out of nowhere. His eyes stared at the three retreating figures as he muttered to himself, "Only a year has passed since I last saw him, yet Jian Chen's strength has already progressed so much that even that little snake cannot harm him. How truly astounding, but how is his body that strong? Is he really a reincarnation of one of the war gods from the ancient clans? Thinking for a moment, the elder then shook his head. His body and the special characteristics of the war gods of the past are completely different. He must have used some sort of secret technique to gain such a strong physique. If a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler is unable to inflict a mortal wound on him, then it seems that I'll be able to feel at ease while little fatty travels with him. He will be able to achieve the goals I have for him soon enough, I hope. At this, the figure of the elder gradually faded away from the world. In the end, his body could no longer be called the body of a human. It was more like a construct made from the powers of the world. For 2 days, the 3 men traveled back to Mercenary City in a hurry. However, only Jie Tai and Jian Chen had entered the city while newbies stood 1,000 meters away from the barrier. Mercenary City prohibited any high-class magical beasts from entering. It only allowed mounts free entry. Jian Chen was worried something had happened back at home since his half of the jade slip had broken. Thus, instead of staying in Mercenary City for a moment longer, Jian Chen directed Little Fatty and Wang Yufeng to hurry out to regroup with newbies. As Jian Chen approached newbies once more, the snake gave a sudden start. Both of his eyes swung to the tiger cub that was resting on Jian Chen's shoulder with a look of absolute shock. I am, impossible. It has appeared once more in this world. As soon as he saw the tiger cub, newbies immediately cried out without a single bit of his previous regal dignity to be heard. Despite the tiger cub being only a weak class 5 magical beast that newbies would normally disregard, the origins of the cub were something overwhelmed newbies. The power that ran through the bloodline of the tiger cub was far too massive. Newbies swore that not once in his life had he ever felt such a domineering pressure. Even a class 8 magical beast, the magical beast equivalent of a saint king in the human world, would not be able to force newbies to feel this very intense, dreadful pressure. It was a pressure that shook his soul to its very core so that he wouldn't dare rebel. In fact, he even felt the urge to kneel down on his knee to swear his allegiance to the cub. As a golden-striped silver snake, newbies was a class 7 magical beast that knew plenty of the world. He understood just what sort of existence this magical beast was to possess such tremendous power. Combined with the special characteristics of the cub, newbies was sure of its true identity, but even still, he was completely dumbfounded by the revelation. Jian Chen could tell that newbies had learned the truth of the tiger cub's identity from his reaction, but this outcome was something he had expected. Thus, he was not surprised. Oh, great newbies, I hope that you'll be able to safeguard this secret. Jian Chen discreetly spoke to him. Still not yet fully recovered from his shock, newbies continued to stare at the sleeping tiger cub a moment longer before looking at Jian Chen, does this mean you know its identity? Jian Chen nodded his head, but the proximity of Jie Tai, who was carrying Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty, made Jian Chen pull newbies away before he whispered, Great newbies, the winged tiger god is a divine beast of antiquity. It'll definitely become the true king of the magical beasts in the future, but since it is a cub, now would be the best time to foster friendly relations with it. This for you is a great opportunity. I believe you understand just how terrifying the winged tiger god is. Newbie's eyes filled with a bright light while he clenched his fists. He wasn't an ignoramus. Jian Chen's words left him to ponder to himself even more than before. He knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime event that he couldn't possibly hope to miss. The strength of a winged tiger god was something that far surpassed any human he knew of. In the case that the winged tiger god matured fully, not a single force in this world would be able to stop it. Worry not, I know what must be done. Newbies reassured Jian Chen. Letting out a sigh of relief, Jian Chen smiled, let's go then. Afterward, Jian Chen and the others traveled toward the Qinhuang kingdom. Newbies had been very quick to regain his regular calm, but every so often, as they traveled through the sky, his eyes could be seen lingering on the tiger cub with a hint of fear. Newbies' earlier loss of composure had been noticed by Jie Tai. He now kept his eyes on the tiger cub on Jian Chen's shoulder. He had noticed the cub earlier but had took it to be a small cub that Jian Chen was fostering. Thus, he didn't bother wasting any thoughts about it, but Nubi's reaction made him realize he was a bit too hasty when he made his evaluation. What history does this magical beast youngling have to cause an ancient beast like the golden-striped silver snake to be at a loss like this? Jie Tai thought to himself in curiosity, wondering what the tiger cub was. As Jian Shen and his entourage were en route to the Qinhuang Kingdom, the stalwart middle-aged man from last time was seated in yet another private room of a building in a first-class city in the kingdom closest to Mercenary City. Right in front of him was the same old man that had greeted him last time. "Respectful sir, there was an important message that had to be reported straight away. Our spy has made a concise report that Jian Shen has left Mercenary City. He is traveling in the direction of the Qinhuang Kingdom. According to what we know, the Qinhuang Kingdom most recently gained another imperial protector that goes by the name Jian Shen. It would be my guess that they're the same person," the elder informed the man. A brilliant light entered the seated man's eyes as he said, "This information isn't half bad. You've done well. Take this. Consider it your reward and the surplus a bonus." Throwing down an exquisite space ring onto the table, the man left the room. After 2 days' worth of traveling over thousands and thousands of kilometers, Jian Shen's group finally managed to make it to the edges of the Qinhuang Kingdom. Without any time to rest, the group headed for the palace. Unbeknownst to them, an extremely faint image floated several thousand meters overhead, looking down on the group. This image looked similar to the middle-aged man, but his face was extremely sinister. "Winged Tiger God, I've finally found you," the man excitedly spoke. Chapter 638, The Return. The middle-aged man's eyes lingered on the winged tiger cub on Jian Shen's chest. As big as the continent was, he had been able to learn of the winged tiger god by accident, causing him to feel extremely excited. Half a moment later, the middle-aged man tore his eyes away from the tiger cub to look at the gold-cloaked Nubis. As soon as Nubi's figure registered in his eyes, the man let out a small start. That's Nubis. Why is an ancient beast like him following this group?" For a moment, the man pondered to himself. With his strength, he has surely sensed the bloodline of the winged tiger god. He's made his choice to help the winged tiger god mature to adulthood, it seems. Pity. This choice will only lead him to the road of death. How unexpected to see a Class 7 golden-striped silver snake and a saint ruler following Jian Shen around. I could kill them, but that'd alert the saint rulers in the Qinhuang Kingdom. With how close Mercenary City is, if one of their strongest found out that I've entered the human world, that'd spell the end for me. I'll have to retreat for now. Bah, I'll let you live another day. The man thought to himself before his transparent image began to fade away from its spot and then out of sight. Jian Shen and the others remained completely oblivious to the fact that they were being followed. Traveling toward the palace, the group then soon arrived at the entrance. At Jian Shen's command, everyone landed on the ground and strode into the palace. As an imperial protector, Jian Shen was a figure that was known to everyone. Not a single person moved to stop him, they instead bowed from their waists while they stood off to the side. Simultaneously, 4 enormous bursts of energy resonated from within the palace as if 4 ancient beasts had awakened from their slumber. The entire area was filled with this aura, almost freezing time itself. 4 figures could be seen flying from each corner of the palace into the air above, and behind them, a crack in space itself could be seen. It was as if they were traveling within space instead of air. With unbelievable speed, the 4 figures surrounded Jian Shen and the others. Jian Shen pays his respects to the 4 seniors. Jian Shen spoke with a calm smile to the ones around him. Since he knew that these 4 were the imperial protectors of the Qinhuang Kingdom and were saint rulers, he could speak without fear. In fact, he even knew 2 of the 4 already. "Jian Shen, it's you." One of the middle-aged men spoke in surprise. Turning his eyes to the golden-robed Nubis and Jie Tai, his eyebrows furrowed together. "Jian Shen, who are these 2? With his strength, he could sense that the 2 figures in front of him were also saint rulers. Seniors, these two are Jietai and Nubis, two good friends of mine. Jian Chen explained with a smile. The four imperial protectors looked on in uniform shock. They couldn't believe what Jian Chen had said. They would never have thought that Jian Chen would have yet another two saint ruler friends. This was a strength that even the Qinhuang kingdom valued greatly. The great Nubis. Nubis argued in annoyance. Oh, great Nubis, you are truly so great. How could I be so blind to not see that? Wang Yufeng cajoled from the side. As soon as Wang Yufeng spoke, Nubis took the words as a personal attack and insult to his pride. To hear this from an insignificant ant that hadn't even yet lived for a fraction of his life, Nubis' inherent pride felt greatly insulted. Nubis' face darkened several shades as a hint of crimson light entered his eyes. An intimidating aura began to leak from his body. It moved toward Wang Yufeng before Nubis grabbed Wang Yufeng's throat with a hand. Youngster, Nubis started coldly, do you even wish to live if you mutter these words? Do you not think the great Nubis will not kill you where you stand right now? Wang Yufeng found it impossible to escape or even move because of the death grip that Nubis had on his throat. A feeling of suffocation began to well up from his body. He started to feel as if he was on the verge of death. What had been even more terrifying was the fact that Nubis' eyes were scarlet, adding yet another factor of anger that struck fear into Wang Yufeng. Nubis, what are you doing? Let go of him. Jian Chen barked out. The light in his eyes hardened as if to become as sharp as the blade of a sword. Nubis' actions had startled even Jian Chen since Wang Yufeng was a member of their party instead of an enemy. Nubis turned an eye to look at Jian Chen and shrugged, youngster, for the sake of giving some face to Jian Chen, I'll spare your life. You will not speak to me with such a tone in the future. Remember that. Or else I, the great Nubis, will not hesitate to kill you no matter how good of a friend you are to Jian Chen. Nubis released Wang Yufeng's throat, allowing his captive to drop to his knees and gasp for breath. Wang Yufeng's entire body was entirely drenched with sweat because of the previous situation. You're not a human, you're a magical beast. One of the Imperial Protectors spoke. When Nubis released his aura, all four of the Imperial Protectors had been able to recognize his true identity. Are you of the Gilligan clan? Another Imperial Protector asked. After he asked his question, the other three Imperial Protectors froze for a fraction of a second. Nubis gave a level stare at the four Imperial Protectors in front of him and proudly said, don't take the great Nubis for a being from the Gilligan clan. There is nothing between them and the great Nubis. For seniors, please don't misunderstand. Nubis may be a magical beast, but he isn't a member of the Gilligan clan. He is a friend of mine and is by no means an outsider. Jian Chen explained. Although he was unhappy with the fact that Nubis had let loose his arrogant attitude, it was far more pertinent to explain the situation and the relationship between Nubis and him or else risk a misunderstanding. If that's so, then he's no outsider to us as well. The four Imperial Protectors sighed in relief. However, in their hearts, they were curious how Jian Chen had been able to make friends with such a powerful magical beast. Such a feat filled each and every single one of them with awe and even some envy. The natural fighting potential of a magical beast was far greater than their human counterparts. Some of the rarer magical beasts could even overstep the boundaries of rank and kill humans of a higher level. Just barely recovering from a near-death experience by Nubis, Wang Yufeng's entire body grew as rigid as a statue when he heard that Nubis was in fact a magical beast. Looking at Nubis with extreme terror, Wang Yufeng realized at that moment that this young golden-robed youth in front of him was a majestic Class 7 magical beast. A being that was on par with the saint rulers of the human world. A parade of footsteps could be heard at the same time as well as a dense amount of soldiers came flying in from every direction possible. In the sky, 20-something heaven saint masters appeared. They were the imperial advisors that stayed behind to protect the palace while the others were away. These imperial advisors had clearly been startled by the outburst of strength from the four imperial advisors when they had made themselves known. The entire palace in fact had been made aware of their presence, which caused security to increase to the maximum. Go back to what you were doing before. One imperial protector commanded with a calm voice that traveled into the ears of all the soldiers there. The dense crowd of soldiers soon trickled back into the palace as if they were water. As soon as they appeared, all of them had left, leaving behind only the 20-something heaven saint masters in the sky. Each one of them were looking at the 4 imperial protectors in shock. The 4 imperial protectors were generally hidden within the palace's cultivating. They'd only leave the palace once every 10 or so years to get some exercise, but to have all 4 of them appear at once was an extremely surprising sight. We pay our respects to the imperial protectors. The heaven saint masters bowed respectfully. One of the imperial protectors waved his hands and replied, "You may leave." Yes. The 20 heaven saint masters replied before glancing curiously at the entourage behind Jian Qin. Silently withdrawing, each one of them was extremely curious despite their calm demeanors. These strangers had been enough to startle even the 4 imperial protectors. This meant that these strangers were definitely important people. Jian Qin, I heard that you came across some trouble while in Mercenary City. Although we wanted to help you, the Qinhuang Kingdom was facing some dangers that we had to address. Thus, we could spare no time to help. We hope that you won't take offense to that. An imperial protector apologetically smiled at Jian Qin. It didn't matter if it was the feat Jian Qin had accomplished back in Mercenary City or the fact that 2 saint rulers were traveling with him, the 4 of them couldn't risk mistreating Jian Qin right now. A great big smile appeared on Jian Qin's face before he began to make conversation with the 4 imperial protectors. After several words, he got to the main problem at hand. Seniors, something is happening back within my homelands, so I must hurry back there right away. If we may speak another day. That's fine, we won't take up Brother Jian Qin's time any longer if that's the case. Afterward, Jian Qin and the 3rd prince, Qin Ji, managed to say their goodbyes. Then the 4 imperial protectors led Jian Qin's group to the space gate where they would leave the kingdom from. Chapter 639. The leaking of the tungsten alloy deposit. The imperial advisors had made the preparations for Jian Qin's group to travel to the heavenly kingdom via the space gate some time ago. Thus, they were able to arrive there extremely fast. As soon as they stepped through the gate, Jian Qin's eyes swept the area only to realize that the palace was still the same as it always was. The only difference was the fact that there was a slightly cold and tense feeling throughout the place. All over the area, there were war banners flying high with mimicking the fire-red symbol of flame. Jian Qin was no stranger to these banners since they marked the flame mercenaries. Suddenly, a series of footsteps quickly came echoing into the courtyard as several hundred men came flying toward Jian Qin, surrounding him and his group. As they moved to encircle them, the men glared viciously at Jian Qin. Who are you? State your names at once. The leader of the group commanded. Jian Qin. Jian Qin replied. Straight away, the man's face froze. He was no stranger to this name and was in fact quite familiar with it. That was the name of the captain after all. The leading captain concentrated on Jian Qin some more before finally recognizing him. A startled look appeared on his face before he bowed his head down to his waist in salute, so it was the captain. Your subordinate would have no eyes if I was unable to recognize the captain, please forgive this one. The people around the captain recognized Jian Qin by this point as well. An immediate change overcame each and every single one of them, causing them to bow. We pay our respects to the captain. Several hundred voices called out at once, breaking the monotonous silence in the palace. Hence, the entire palace now knew that Jian Qin was here, causing everyone to file toward his position. A faint azure glow made itself known as a young figure in white flew toward Jian Qin. When he came to a stop in front of him and saw Jian Qin's face, the figure smiled widely. Jian Qin. You're finally back. Any longer and I would have gone out to look for you. This youth was Ming Dong. Jian Qin, you're back. Brother, you've come back. At the voice of Ming Dong, the voices of two women rang out. It was Yu Yu, Huang Wan, and Bai Lian that came rushing toward Jian Chen with joyous expressions. All of the higher-ranking members of the Flame Mercenaries gathered in the interior of the palace, so in no time at all, the empty space was quickly filled with people. Jian Chen gave several words of greeting to everyone before he was guided into the grand halls. This specific hall was the hall where the nobles of the old Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had conducted business relating to the kingdom, but since the Flame Mercenaries had taken up residence, it had been repurposed and renamed to the Flames Hall. Jian Chen was seated on top of the golden throne in the middle of the hall with newbies, Jetta Tai, Wang Yufeng, and Little Fatty standing by his side without a word to say. Little Fatty was looking around filled with great curiosity. He had only just started to travel the continent, so every single thing he saw in this strange world was a new wonder to marvel. Beneath Jian Chen and them were the Heaven Saint Masters, Ming Dong, and the others of the Flame Mercenaries standing together. Jian Chen gave a cursory look around as if preparing to say something. He then started off with an introduction of Jetta Tai and the others, but he only gave a brief introduction of their backgrounds. He did not mention how strong they were. After the introductions were finished, Jian Chen wasted no more words. He immediately got to the crux of the problem. Taking out the crushed jade piece he had in his space ring, he asked, "What was so serious for you to call me back using the twin jade stones? What else but about the tungsten alloy?" Jian Chen. Half a month ago, news of the vein was leaked to the world. The fact that the Flame Mercenaries are harboring a vein of tungsten alloy is making its way around so fast that everyone knows about it. Yu Yu replied. Jian Chen smiled, paper can't resist being burned by fire. News that the tungsten alloy would be leaked was within my expectations, but I didn't think it'd be revealed so quickly. What plans have the ones that know about the tungsten alloy made so far? Ever since we garrisoned the Flame Mercenaries here, the strength of the 7 factions grew dramatically, especially with the Qinhuang Kingdom as support, but the surrounding kingdoms have grown jealous. While they haven't made any open plans just yet, there is still one problem. The sect of Dragon and Tiger. Bai Lian explained. She and Yu Yu were very capable of managing the Flame Mercenaries, so Jian Chen had left the group in their care while he was away. While there were plenty of strong individuals in the Flame Mercenaries where even Heaven Saint Masters were abundant, strength was not a decisive factor in regards to management. What was important was not talent in cultivation, but a sharp mind and intelligent soul. At the mention of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, a furious glare entered Jian Chen's eye. He could still remember the saint ruler of that sect had done to him, and he would never forget it either. Does the sect of Dragon and Tiger hope to seize the tungsten alloy? Jian Chen asked with an increasingly colder glare. If it were before, the sect of Dragon and Tiger would have brought a great deal of pressure onto him. However, right now, the saint ruler posed no problem at all to him. Yu Yu nodded. Correct. They want their portion of the soup, but their appetites are far too large. They've demanded 2/3 of the deposit. Naturally, we refused. Maybe it's because they fear the Qinhuang Kingdom, but they didn't do anything after our refusal. They instead gave us 7 days to think it over. Brother, the sect of Dragon and Tiger want to see just how the Qinhuang Kingdom will treat this affair. We've already made a detailed report on the strength of the sect of Dragon and Tiger compared to our Flame Mercenaries. We've concluded that our Flame Mercenaries don't have the power to refuse them. I'm afraid that if the Qinhuang Kingdom doesn't partake in this, then the sect of Dragon and Tiger will simply take the deposit straight from our hands. Bai Lian spoke. Bai Lian is right, Jian Chen. Our only guarantee to the deposit is if the Qinhuang Kingdom helps us. Our only connection to them is through you, and with how there's no time to lose, we had no other choice but to call you back using the twin jade pieces. Yu Yu gave her input with a serious voice. This matter with the sect of Dragon and Tiger had given her a tremendous headache. How many days has it been since they gave us 7 days? Jian Chen asked. It's been 6 days already, tomorrow is the very last day. Ming Dong grimly answered. A cold sneer appeared on Jian Chen's face at that response. If that's the case, then we'll just wait for the sect of Dragon and Tiger to come. There's no need for everyone to worry, I'll handle the matter myself. Everyone had let out a sigh of relief when Jian Chen replied. They did not doubt in his words at all. Even those not of his inner circle knew of his other identity. He was the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom, one of the 8 great empires. Just how could a person like that give his word so easily without the strength to back it up? With the problem regarding the sect of Dragon and Tiger resolved, everyone split up at the suggestion of Jian Chen. Soon enough, the grand halls of the palace became eerily empty with only a scant few people remaining. Standing up from his throne, Jian Chen looked to Ming Dong and then the rest. In the months they had been apart, Yu Yu and Bai Lian both were the most fatigued-looking of the group. The past several days of managing the mercenaries must have taken a considerable amount of energy from them. To apologize, Jian Chen gave a small smile. Yu Yu, Lianer, the past few days must have been hard on you. Perhaps I shouldn't have thrown such a burdensome task to you too. I can tell that you two are far more exhausted than when I last saw you two. Bai Lian gave a sweet smile in response to him. Brother, don't worry about me. The Flame Mercenaries is just at the developing stage since it only recently was formed, so there's lots to do. It should become easier with time. I'll be sure to find some people who are adept in management and are trustworthy. With such people around to help, that'll alleviate some of your pressure. Jian Chen proposed. Brother, I've already considered finding someone. There's quite a number of people I think would be good at managing others. Zhang Tian in particular. Bai Lian replied. Zhang Tian. Jian Chen was alarmed. He remembered this man since he was the captain of the Carnage Mercenaries. Zhang Tian is a dependable person, let's have him undertake this responsibility then. Jian Chen spoke after some time to think. Got it. Afterward, Jian Chen took out a small fist-sized fruit from his space ring and handed it to Bai Lian with a smile. Lianer, this is a geo fruit, a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. I bought this in an auction house in Mercenary City to help change your cultivation. Once you eat this fruit, your body will become extremely suitable for cultivation. In the future, you'll find almost no obstacles in your path. Brother, you must have spent so much money for this. Bai Lian was deeply moved. Her eyes stared at the geo fruit in front of her with the slight hint of tears starting to form. Unable to stop himself from smiling, Jian Chen replied, money is of no concern. As long as it'll benefit Lianer, then all the money spent is worth it. From the side, Nubi stared at the geo fruit in Jian Chen's hand, using a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource to change the body of an ordinary person. What a spendthrift you are. This is a treasure even saint rulers use to prolong their lives. Jian Chen, let's make another deal. If you give this geo fruit to me, I'll follow you around for another 3 years. In the human world, the geo fruit was a treasure, but it wasn't extinct. Every year in Mercenary City another heavenly resource of the same level would appear, but as a magical beast, newbies couldn't simply walk into Mercenary City. Therefore, obtaining a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource became a whole lot harder. It was practically impossible to gain one in the human world as a magical beast. The Cross Mountains had plenty of 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, but those were carefully seized by the Gilligan clan. Hence, Nubis himself was unable to take any. While he was a Class 7 magical beast, obtaining a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource wasn't easy for him. Jian Chen shook his head without even a second consideration. This geo fruit is for Lianer. If you still need one, I'll buy one in Mercenary City when the time comes. If that is what you say, let it be then. Nubis was placated. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource had the ability to prolong the life of the eater, and magical beasts were no exception to that. 10,000-year-old heavenly resources aren't something that can be eaten by anyone without consequence. Jian Chen, if you want to change your cousin's body composition, you may want to invite an alchemist. An alchemist can craft medicines that can make the rich spiritual might of the heavenly resource docile so that your cousin may be able to eat it. Jie Tai suddenly spoke. Have the best alchemist come to me at once. Jian Shen commanded without delay. Chapter 640, dealing with the sect of Dragon and Tiger. About 10,000 meters high in the sky above the Qinhuang Kingdom, the faint image of a person could be seen surrounded by a sea of clouds. With those clouds in the way, neither of the four imperial protectors had seen or sensed his existence. The astral figure was currently staring down at the space gate in the center of the Qinhuang Kingdom's palace. The figure's fists were clenched tightly and his teeth were gritted angrily as he spat, "Blasted scoundrel. He escaped through the space gate. How troublesome, I didn't even have time to place a tracer on him. Where has he gone? I'll have to waste even more time and energy now, blast." The figure thought to himself in anger. But then a thought struck him. Jian Shen is an imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. This means that if I pay attention to what they say in the kingdom, I'll be able to figure out where he has gone to. With the plan set, the figure then faded away from sight. All of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had been transformed into the territory of the Flame Mercenaries, but with the previously hidden tungsten alloy now known throughout the area, countless of smaller kingdoms had been enticed. However, not a single one of them had been spurred into action besides the sect of Dragon and Tiger. The pressure that came from the threat of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was alleviated with the return of Jian Shen. Although Jian Shen didn't fear the sect, he didn't wish to make a preemptive strike against them either. Instead, he wanted to wait 2 days for the sect to come. Jian Shen wanted the sect to come with large forces and war banners ready for battle. He then wanted them to return back to where they came, ashen-faced with dejection and defeat. On the morning of the second day, Jian Shen could be seen seated on top of the throne in the grand halls. Down beneath him was an older man bent down at the waist. He Yun pays his respects to the captain. Smiling at the elder, Jian Shen said, "Master He Yun, they say that you are the most accomplished alchemist within this kingdom. What kind of alchemy are you capable of?" "Captain, as an alchemist, I've several accomplishments under my belt. As long as I possess the ingredients, I am capable of concocting many different high-leveled pills." He Yun respectfully answered. He knew that the young person in front of him was the leader of the Flame Mercenaries. The person who the 7 factions of the defunct Heavenly Eagle Kingdom swore allegiance to. "I've a single 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Master He Yun, would you be able to process it into a pill?" Jian Shen calmly asked as if negotiating an everyday deal with He Yun. Like any other person, He Yun was startled to hear of a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, but he was quick to recover. "Captain, I hate to be one to disappoint, but a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is beyond even my alchemical skills. I do not possess the ability to process such a treasure." "Jian Shen, you don't have to make an alchemical pill from the 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Your cousin's body can't handle the concentrated spiritual qi inside the heavenly resource. All the alchemist has to do is make that qi docile so that your cousin will be able to take it," Jie Tai explained to Jian Shen. Nodding, Jian Shen turned to look at He Yun. "Master He Yun, would you be capable of this?" Letting out a sigh in relief, He Yun cupped his hands. "Captain, as long as I have the compatible ingredients, this is something that I can do." "So be it then. I'll be relying on you, Master He Yun. Stay within the royal palace in the meanwhile, and I will deliver whatever ingredients you need with haste," Jian Shen decreed. "Yes, Captain." In the blink of an eye, the 2 final days had gone by. Today would be the day, the deadline the sect of Dragon and Tiger gave to relinquish the vein of tungsten alloy to them. Several dozen Heaven Saint Masters floated anxiously waiting for the sect to arrive. Around the perimeter of the valley, even more Earth Saint Masters stood by. This time, they were up against the experts of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, so Jian Shen and the other powerful individuals had already gathered here. There were only 100 Earth Saint Masters to reduce the casualty count because of the fact that they would be more of a liability than helpful. Seated not too far away at an empty clearing in the valley was Jian Shen, Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Tai Ta, Huang Wan, Yu, Jetta Tai, Nubis, Wang Yufeng, and Little Fatty. Chatting and eating at the table, not a single one of them looked as if they cared about the sect of Dragon and Tiger Step. This was the very first time he had stepped onto the continent. Little Fatty was extremely curious about everything. Without rest, he asked for guidance on many different facets and questions, and sometimes the extremely naive words of his caused everyone else to laugh out loud. Unwilling to disappoint, Wang Yufeng relentlessly explained every single little experience he had collected while exploring the continent to everyone there. Soon enough, everyone had become friendly with one another. Jianshan himself would interject a few times. Only Nubis and Jetta Tai kept to themselves with their eyes closed and not a word spoken. An hour later, both Nubis and Jetta Tai opened their eyes to look off into a distant direction. Not too long later, even Jianshan realized the change. Putting a stop to the conversation, he looked off in the same direction with a pointed stare. They've come. Nubis, Jetta Tai, hide your auras and don't let them see you. The great Nubis. Nubis muttered in dissatisfaction. Soon enough, a dozen Heaven Saint Masters came flying over before coming to a stop above the valley an equal distance away from the Heaven Saint Masters of the Flame Mercenaries. They were the men of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Jianshan stared down these new arrivals with a glare that could freeze water. Many of them were familiar faces, 3 of them were the ones he had once fought in front of their sect gates. Flame Mercenaries, your 7 days are up. I presume you've made your decision. The Sect Master, Chris, smiled. Sect Master Chris, I wonder what it is that you want us to consider. Why don't you come out and say it? Jianshan replied to him while biting into an apple. Chris' eyes hovered over to Jianshan before he clasped his hands together in greeting. So it's the captain of the Flame Mercenaries and Imperial Protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. I, the incumbent sect master of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, greet you. Chris paused briefly before saying, Imperial Protector, we of the sect of Dragon and Tiger are here for the tungsten alloy deposit. As agreed upon before, we want 2/3 of the deposit, and the remaining third will be left to you. Sitting upright on the stool he sat on, Jianshan stared daggers at Chris. How audacious your sect is to dare demand 2/3 of the resources. Do you think yourself capable of making such a demand? Instead of being angry, Chris only laughed. Imperial Protector, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was originally ours to manage and govern. Therefore, the tungsten alloy is within our territory and is our right as well. According to logic, the entirety of the vein should be ours, but out of respect for the Qinhuang Kingdom, we shall only take 2/3 of it and leave the rest to you. That is a reasonable and fair amount. What an overt excuse. Men of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, listen to me now. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom and its territories have already been subjugated by my Flame Mercenaries. The tungsten alloy is therefore under our possession. I'll give you all a brief moment to leave. If you don't, then don't blame me for being rough with you. Jianshan coldly responded as if unwilling to quibble with them any longer. How brazen, Jianshan. This old man would like to see just how rough you'll be then. An elderly voice suddenly made itself known as it echoed through the sky. Right above the men from the sect of Dragon and Tiger, a single elderly man appeared out of nowhere. He was the saint ruler of the sect. Leveling a cold glare at the elder, Jianshan gave an equally cold smile. Saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, you've finally made your appearance, and here I thought you'd hide for a little longer. Expressionless, the saint ruler looked at Jianshan. You aren't half bad at cultivation, but you are only still a Heaven Saint Master. Without the Qinhuang Kingdom behind you, you are merely a gnat in my eyes. I only pardoned your life last time out of respect to the Qinhuang Kingdom. That's why you can still stand here today, but if you're still so bold to spout off such blasphemous words toward my sect, then I cannot spare your life any longer. Are you willing to bet whether or not I'll beat your body into 1,000 pieces? Does your sect not fear the Qinhuang Kingdom? Jianshan inquisitively asked. Laughing, the saint ruler answered, the Qinhuang Kingdom barely has any time to look after itself. How could it spend extra time trying to reach here? Jian, if you were hoping to look to the Qinhuang kingdom for support, then you should give up now and obediently hand over the tungsten alloy. I won't make things troublesome for you, but if you don't comply, then you'll know the consequences. Unless he was forced to, the saint ruler didn't want to kill Jian in front of everyone. It was true that Jian, as a heaven saint master, was as weak as an ant to him, but he was still an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom. Even a saint ruler would hesitate to kill one of them so quickly. Chapter 641, Fighting with the Saint Ruler of the Sect of Dragon and Tiger. 1. Laughing, the saint ruler answered, the Qinhuang kingdom barely has any time to look after itself. How could it spend extra time trying to reach here? Jian, if you were hoping to look to the Qinhuang kingdom for support, then you should give up now and obediently hand over the tungsten alloy. I won't make things troublesome for you, but if you don't comply, then you'll know the consequences. Unless he was forced to, the saint ruler didn't want to kill Jian in front of everyone. It was true that Jian, as a heaven saint master, was as weak as an ant to him, but he was still an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom. Even a saint ruler would hesitate to kill one of them so quickly. A troubled feeling tugged at Jian's mind. It was a guess earlier that a worrisome matter had suddenly appeared for the Qinhuang kingdom. With the saint ruler confirming this guess of his, Jian was still left unsure just what type of difficulties the Qinhuang kingdom was facing. I'll have to go see what's happening with the Qinhuang kingdom when I've the time. Jian thought to himself. The Qinhuang kingdom had helped him so much already, so he wouldn't feel right doing nothing when there was trouble to be had. Now wasn't the time to be thinking about such a problem. Resuming the topic at hand, Jian glowered dangerously at the saint ruler with an angry light in his eyes. Saint ruler, you don't have the right to speak to me like this anymore. At the last word, a layer of wind surrounded Jian's body and brought him into the air to stand equal to him. There was such a strong intent to battle that it filled the entire area, seemingly freezing it. Yet, the saint ruler continued to look at him with the same look of contempt as before. Jian was nothing more than a mere heaven saint master in his eyes. A person like that was as weak as an ant that could be swatted with the wave of his hand. Jian, do you truly wish this old man to take action? The saint ruler questioned with a voice like ice. His patience was reaching its breaking point. Thus, the space between Jian and the saint ruler became a battlefield. Observing the matters from afar, the dozen heaven saint masters, Ming Dong, and the others all looked grim. They were worried about Jian since they all knew that a heaven saint master wasn't comparable to a saint ruler. Why hasn't the imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom come yet? Are they really as busy as that saint ruler said, unable to help? If they don't come, then brother is in danger. Bai Lian anxiously spoke. Everyone thought that Jian had already notified the Qinhuang kingdom, requesting them to send their imperial protectors since he had been extremely calm before. However, seeing Jian in battle against a saint ruler without a single imperial protector appearing was something that made them all extremely worried and anxious. How impulsive Jian is. The imperial protectors aren't even here and he's already angered the saint ruler. We don't have anyone that could fight one of those here. De Gufeng muttered with furrowed eyebrows. Nubis couldn't help but laugh out loud when he heard both Bai Lian and De Gufeng. Sorry to disappoint, but the imperial protectors you were expecting won't be coming. What? They won't be coming? Then how'll we be holding off the saint ruler then? Ming Dong started. Casting his eyes to the airborne Jian, Nubis replied, hasn't someone already started? That saint ruler will take care of the enemy. What are you on about? Jian is only a heaven saint master. How could he fight a saint ruler? Jian questioned. I'll report to my ancestor, he should have the strength to deal with this saint ruler. Huang Wan words and tone were panicked. Boom. Just as everyone was furiously discussing with one another on how to deal with this situation, the sound of a heavy explosion caused everyone to look back. The entire area shook from the shockwave of the blast, obscuring almost everything but Jian Chen and the Saint Ruler in battle. Saint Ruler, I still very clearly remember the hand you bestowed on me. Allow me to return the favor to you today. Jian Chen boomed. Chaotic force covered his entire body so that its power defended him from the attacks of the Saint Ruler. The Saint Ruler was slightly taken aback. He was having a hard time believing what he was seeing. But how is this possible? Have you already made the breakthrough to become a Saint Ruler? In the earlier exchange, the Saint Ruler had finally been made aware of Jian Chen's power. It was something that was greater than what a Heaven Saint Master was capable of. This aggressive behavior of your sect, allow me to force you all to return with shame and disgrace. Jian Chen barked out loud. Using the illusionary flash, his body flew toward the Saint Ruler like lightning. One of his fists pulsated with chaotic force as it slammed toward the chest of his foe. The space trailing the path his fist traveled started to warp. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.